Start now? Where? So what's
Okay. We'll call the Newport City Council meeting to order for Monday, June 5th, 2017, 6:30 p.m. All members of the City Council are present. Others include James Johnson, our Clerk Treasurer, and Laura Dogan, our City Manager. The next item is the approval of the minutes of May 15th, 2017. Everyone have a chance to review the minutes? I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of 15 May 2017.
Motion been made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Made by Mr. Wilson, seconded by Mr. Shinet. Any discussion on the minutes? Been hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Okay, on the agenda this evening, number 8, the wording is slightly, it's not completely what it should have said. Part of it got left off. It should be the NCRC 2016 Reinvestment Statistics and Discussion on the Renewal of the Designated Downtown. The renewal of the designated downtown part got left off, and there will be a vote after that presentation. Okay. Moving on, item number 3, comments by members of the public. This has an opportunity for people to make comments on items which are not on the council agenda. Yes.
Susan Watson, but you probably all know me by now. I wanted to follow up on my comments at the last council meeting. I followed the protocol that John had told me to do, and I went to see Laura, met with Laura, in regard to the J.J. Newberry building. Laura sent an introductory email to Rick Bove on my behalf, and I followed this up with an email to Rick and telling him what I and a group of us would like to do with the building, either inside or outside, and that also the remedial steps that need to be taken before we could do anything on the inside. I haven't heard from him yet, but once I do, I will certainly report back to you what is going to be happening. If I don't hear from him, I'd like some guidance on the next step to take, because I'm really taking this on as a personal issue, because it looked so great during the Christmas season when it was decorated, and I'd like to see the same in the summer when we get so many tourists. So I will be making another comment in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
I'd like to make a statement in support of Fresh Start Community Farms, whose mission is, according to page 73 of the Newport City Municipal Plan, to cultivate a baseline of food access in our city through gardens that create social, cultural, and economic hubs within the communities they serve. Our gardens are lawns, lots, and other reclaimed spaces scattered around the city, tended by teams of neighbors and the next generation of growers. I want to express that access to healthy, fresh, locally grown foods is a cornerstone of public health. That lack of access to healthy food and nutrition is one of the major causes of chronic disease in the state of Vermont, and that causes, in fact, more than 50% of deaths in our state. So I wanted to, again, express really positive support for the Fresh Start Community Farms, and I spent a good time yesterday. I'm sore everywhere from getting some beds ready at the Summer Street site. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anything else? Yes.
Hi, I'm Julia Juarez. I'm actually up visiting from Birmingham, Alabama. The mayor of Birmingham wanted me to send greetings and let y'all know we're hosting the World Games in 2021, and we would love if anybody and everybody would come down and visit.
Any other comments by anyone from members of the public? Then we will move on to the agenda. Other items. The next item on the agenda is Wednesdays on the Waterfront. And we have Andrea Carbine and Vero Raincourt and Jess Booth. Give us a description of what the program is going to be. And
Yeah. No, I'm sorry, I don't want to forget any. So, this is a new event that's come forth to the city and to council. This group right here has done a lot of homework and a lot of preparation to come up with a concept for a Wednesdays on the Waterfront event that would happen weekly throughout the summer. It would be a free event open to the public. They've seeked out a lot of different sponsorships in order to help support their event. They are asking for use from the city for our bandwagon that we have, and also it looks like they are looking for a sponsorship too of $1,000 to help get them off the ground for this new event. So they have included Laura and I in their planning and are very organized. We are happy to report, and we think it would be a great thing for the city. So we wanted to bring that forth to you, but I'll let them speak a little bit more on behalf of the event.
Great, thanks, Jess. So Wednesdays on the Waterfront is a music-based community venture that Vero and I have spearheaded, and it's a volunteer mission to bring positive energy to Newport and a renewed enthusiasm to the downtown area as a whole. So Vero and I have been in the event planning industry for quite some time and are both avid music lovers, and just recognize the need for a renewed passion around Newport, and that's how Wednesdays on the Waterfront has been born. The project, as Jess said, is a weekly concert series, and it consists of 6 Wednesdays at this point, starting July 12th, running through August 16th. Each Wednesday will host a different live band, and it is free and open to Newport's families and seniors and anyone else who would like to come and enjoy free music, both residents and visitors alike. We've been working really tightly with Steve Wright of JP, and he's helped us to start securing a part of the music component to Wednesdays on the Waterfront, and at this point, the musical lineup is really starting to come together. So sponsorship is also on track, and thus far we have secured sponsorship from Newport Natural Foods, Community National Bank, Columbia Forest Products, Spades Family LLC, J-Peak, and Casella, to the tune of about $7,000, $7,500. So we're in the process of requesting sponsorships from many other organizations as well as the city of Newport. And the details, countless details are coming together. We have approval from the state and have got our name registered and our logo's been designed, and we're plugging along, but we're looking for a few things from you. And the 3 things we're looking for is first, although we have secured permission from the state, we're hoping that, and would appreciate the city's approval to host the event here. And we know that it will be successful and will grow and hopefully have the potential to continue to grow. Second, we're asking you to waive the Newport Recreation Department fees associated with renting the bandwagon. And finally, we're asking for a monetary donation of $1,000 from the city to support Wednesdays on the Waterfront. And our thought is that these funds will help defray the cost of our signage and the marketing, which will contribute to the goal of bringing a vibrancy to downtown Newport on Wednesday evenings this summer, something that can only benefit us all. So if you have any questions, we're happy to.
Questions for anyone on this? I think it's a wonderful idea, and I was pleased when you first approached me on it. I think it'll help bring folks downtown, and having music on the waterfront with the gazebos is ideal, and I think it's a perfect addition to downtown. So you already have permission from the state? That
Yes.
was okay. So you need the waiving of the fees, and then you're looking for the $1,000 to help defray the cost. Now, I know we had budgeted $5,000 for the Jazz Fest.
That's correct.
So we do have, we could use some of that funding since the Jazz Fest is not occurring. So we could use, I would think, $1,000 out of that if the council saw fit for, you know. Go ahead, Mr. Schmidt.
I thought that the $1,000 was going to come from the rec department's annual event budget.
Oh,
That's where the money for the Jazz Festival was budgeted into, and
Yes.
that's where it would have come out of too. But I do want to mention that with the bandwagon, which is a piece of equipment that the Recreation Department has, you're probably familiar with it and have seen it at like 4th of July and things like that. That is a piece of equipment that we have, and after talking with the maintenance crew and the guys that really know the ins and outs of that piece of equipment, they brought to my attention, which I hadn't originally realized when making these plans with these guys, that the condition of that bandwagon is not made for frequent, basically putting it up and down once a week for 8 weeks. It's meant for 1 or 2 times a year. It's a lot of work to kind of put that up, and it's a little bit, not the safest thing, I guess. So we've talked about some alterations and things that we could make to the bandwagon in order to make it more suitable for uses like this, because this may not be the only one in the future. Hopefully, we'd like to put that piece of equipment to better use. But we don't quite have an understanding of what the cost will be to those changes and those maintenance things to the bandwagon. So you probably noticed in my memo that although we certainly want to support them with the use of that bandwagon, we anticipate that there are going to be some costs to repair that and get it ready in preparation for this event. We don't know what those costs will be, but we'd like to use any additional funds that are in our annual event budget to put towards that in order to have it ready for them. So you probably saw in my memo there that I wasn't sure about the $1,000 sponsorship at this point, just because we don't know what the cost is going to be to repair the bandwagon. So I'll leave that, in your hands, but I did want to bring that up too.
Okay, and then further down in your letter, you mentioned that the Parks and Recreation Department is hesitant to commit funds in the form of sponsorship until we know the cost of repair in preparation for the event. When do you expect to know the cost of repairing the bandwagon?
So Mac and Andy, we just had some events this past weekend that we've kind of just finished getting through, but we have staff meeting tomorrow, and I was hoping for an update from those guys tomorrow about that. But yeah, I would say not very long. Probably by next council meeting, we'd have an idea.
And then my last question would be, would it be more feasible to just make a new bandwagon instead of fixing up the old one?
The bandwagon came into existence before I came to Newport, and it was created with a grant. I don't know how much the grant was or what the original cost of the bandwagon is. But it was kind of just an improvised, organic creation off of an old hay wagon. It's not like a really nice portable stage like you've probably seen in other places, so I have no idea what the cost is. I certainly can find out, but I'm not quite sure. Maybe that would be a different route to take. But of course, we are on a little bit of a short time, so.
Yeah, the original bandwagon, the wagon was the idea of a person, he doesn't think he lives in Newport anymore, but he was a musician. He wanted to have music in Gardner Park, and there was no stage actually in Gardner Park, and so they came up with this wagon.
Yeah.
And that's some of the history on that, and they had gotten grant money and some donations to fix up that one, fix it up.
Yeah. And a lot of the labor to create it was free, but it's got a roof that flaps down, it's very heavy, and it's not the safest. It's kind of just a homemade makeshift kind of thing, which is cool in its own way, but it's not the safest for frequent use, so.
Was that used last year on the waterfront for the jazz?
They did use it for the Jazz Festival, yeah.
They did use it.
Mr. Mayor?
That's sorry.
Sure.
I'll go ahead.
Okay.
Lost my train of thought. Go ahead, Julie.
Well, I think it's a great event, certainly worthy of our support, but I wonder if Newport City Renaissance Corporation might be the better organization to fund the $1,000 and then free up more of the rec budget to work on the bandwagon.
And these guys have certainly reached out to a lot of sponsorships, and I was telling Laura earlier, would be surprised if they, have no problem finding more, because it seems like there's a lot of enthusiasm around here. Not that we want to take away from, anything they're asking for us, but I think that they're doing a great job with that, so.
Other than the Renaissance, just it has been used in our rec budget, you do have a little over $2,000 left in the special projects fund, council special projects for this time. So if they need it right off, I think there's $2,300 left in that, something like that.
That's the council special projects.
Which
That ends,
bandwagon could be a special project.
Right.
Either one.
that ends June 30th.
So,
Right.
Oh, that makes good sense.
Good point, Norm.
Thank you, John.
And they budgeted some more next year, I can't remember if they didn't.
Go ahead, John.
No, I'm just saying, I think we should use, what, the 1,000 out of our council funds. We've still got 1,300, and then let Jess use what she's got for the Jazz Fest to totally fix that bandwagon up. And
So use 1,000 from our special funds as a sponsorship,
yes.
which we've done. We've sponsored
That
other
would be
groups out of that
the
special
city's
fund,
sponsor,
yeah.
But
Just a comment about grants. St. Johnsbury Catamount Arts had a grant received last year to develop a mobile stage. It's currently being built in Montreal. It'll be used around the kingdom. That's something I think Newport could certainly apply for, that type of grant, to develop that kind of staging that would be portable and usable across our events as well. The Catamount Arts is happy to share that it's just not ready in time for this event. But certainly there would be grant money available for that kind of development, so.
Mr. You remember it, and then I'll go to the chief after.
Okay. Are you expecting any profits, and if you are, what do you plan on doing with them?
We're not expecting, we're not, that's not the goal, obviously, it's not profits. We're hoping to obviously raise enough to have our expenses covered, and we are hoping to, this event would be happening every year and getting bigger and bigger, so if there would be any money left at the end of the year, we'd certainly use it and hope to have, be able to bring bigger bands and,
And I know the average cost of bands is not inexpensive.
We're currently registered as an L3C, so a smaller for-profit, socially beneficial purpose versus we're not looking to maximize income.
Right.
Right. Chief, did you?
Are the events weather dependent or are they rain or shine?
Rain or shine, but we do have a plan for with the Gateway. We've been in touch with Steve from Natural Food Store that if it is raining and really, because the stage doesn't have a roof, so if it's but if it is looking like a big storm, that we could have the event happening at the Gateway.
We've also had it worked into the contract that there's a 24-hour notice that we can cancel a band with it being a Wednesday night, so we're hoping that between the two of those things, we should be all set.
Thank you.
So, any other questions from council members?
I just have one. Your letter was dated 1 June, and then the request was dated 2 June. I'm just hoping it was a typo.
We've been working on this together for about 3 or 4 days beforehand, so we were taking the letters through a variety of edits.
The final one.
That's one that got away.
Oh, if I was an auditor, I'd say, well, okay, what is this here?
No, we appreciate the keen eye, Mr. Wilson.
Okay.
We'll call it a typo for the purpose of
All right. So, what
So
does,
should that be in the motion?
no, I wouldn't worry about that. They're here tonight, that's the main
Yes,
thing.
okay.
They're here on June 5th.
Yeah, June 5th.
At the council meeting, that's the main thing. I like Mr. Wilson's idea of using 1,000 out of the council special funds to help sponsor the event, because I think it's great that the city shows support for this type of effort. And that way it would leave Jess money maybe to fix that up and look into.
Maybe even do more, yeah.
Look for a grant to maybe get a real true portable stage. So, anyone care to make a motion?
It was yours to begin with.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion that we support this with $1,000 from the council special funds and authorize Parks and Rec to use that money from the Jazz Fest to fix the mobile bandstand.
So the motion's been made, is there a second?
Second.
Made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries. Good luck, and let's hope for
Yes.
great weather.
Okay, might as well stay up here, right?
The next item is waterfront bench donation.
Okay, so you saw in your packet, this is just a basic memorial donation. Someone's looking to honor a close friend or family member that's passed here, so pretty self-explanatory. Do you guys have any questions about anything? It's an iron bench that Cindy Sandville would like to have installed on the city dock in the area where Rick Hamlet had a mooring for a very long, or a slip for a very long time, so he was a constant face down at the dock there, and she'd like to memorialize by having a bench that overlooks the area where he would have overlooked for the public, so.
So you're thinking west of the boat launch?
That was her request, yep, so
Yeah, there's that little,
the black line is there.
there's that canopy. Oh, so you're talking about having it right on the
Right on the dock, yeah.
Right on the
Yep.
dock. Oh, okay, because
You can see the black marks on the opposite side that are facing out towards the water. Those are already benches that are there.
right.
So this would be one that would be put where that little black line is facing his slip there,
Oh, facing this way.
facing towards the Gateway Center.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. For some reason I thought it was good.
We did discuss, because at first she wanted to have a granite bench, and we saw
Right.
some problems with the weight of that being on the dock, and just it wouldn't, the installment would be an issue. So I asked her if she would prefer to have it on the land, over by the pavilion area, or if she would prefer to pick out a different style bench that would be more compatible with the dock. Kind of gave her the choice on, does she want the spot or does she want the granite bench, and she opted to have that area and
Have that.
chose to change the style of the bench, so.
Okay.
And this is a nice bench that's gonna be created by a local, I don't know, what do you call, ironsmith, I guess? That's what you call the profession that makes iron benches, so.
Questions from council members on this? I know we've had other memorials put up, like in, over at the beach last year, we had a bench put up over there, and so then we would need a motion to approve the request if we so choose.
I'll make that motion.
So a motion's been made, is there a second?
One second.
Made and seconded. Any more discussion on this?
Coincidentally, that's where we normally have our Good Friday morning service, or our Easter sunrise service. And it's a very convenient location, actually, so it's completely, exactly. It will probably go in my mind as the Jesus bench. But that's neither here nor there. It's a wonderful spot and a wonderful testament.
And Rick was a fixture down at the dock for years, and so. All right, so a motion has been made and seconded. And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries. And you might as well stay seated one more time.
This is the last of it for me.
The Gateway painting bid recommendation and vote.
Yes, so as you guys know, we have $25,000 budgeted for the next budget season to get the Gateway Center painted to match the little harbor office building there. So the blue trim will be changed to that cream white color, and we'll put a protective coat down over the cedar shakes that are on there to kind of hopefully last them a little bit longer. We received 3 different bids. As you can see by the attachments, they came in many different formats. Some of them had things that were not quite included, so I had to make a few follow-up phone calls just to make sure that they met what we were requiring in the RFP, because they didn't necessarily specify a few things. And then after reviewing and doing a walkthrough with the bidders, this is what came in. And after taking a look and doing some checks to some previous work, this is what we came up with. We'd like to offer the job to the Vermont Painting Company out of St. Johnsbury, primarily because of their short timeline. As you guys know, the dock is very busy during the summer, and something that would take 3 months to paint, or even 1 month, would be quite a disruption during that busy season. So that was the biggest seller. The other thing was that the Fred Carter Company and Greg Crease were looking to bring in equipment, lifts or cranes to do the upper cupola and the backside of the building. We were worried about that interrupting foot traffic and parking as well. The Vermont Painting Company wants to use drop equipment and harnesses to basically monkey and dangle their way around the cracks and crevices, which would be the least disruption to the public.
And Vermont Painting Company, they actually did come up and look at it. Because I know when
They
I
did.
opened up the bid, I was quite amazed at the price difference.
They did, but they did not attend the walkthrough. So the ones that are priced higher attended the walkthrough and knew what we had in the budget. The Vermont Painting Company, Glenn, came up on a different day, didn't attend the walkthrough, but went down and checked it himself, and in fact, took a look up at the cupola. He said that he climbed up on the roof. I don't know if he really did that or not, but he took a look at that, and so he didn't know what he hadn't seen our cards yet on what was in the budget, so that was based off of the work that he, the estimate of the actual work, so.
Okay.
Not only are we saving some money by going with him, which wasn't the primary reason we chose him, it was just an added bonus, but.
Then we would need a motion to go with the recommendation from Jess.
I'm sorry, I had one more question.
Nope.
Since the timeline is so much quicker, is there any explanation for that?
He's got a crew.
He's got so it's just more people?
Yeah, the guy on the bottom is him by himself, which is why it's gonna take 3 months.
Okay.
And then the Fred Carter Company has a few guys, but Glenn's got a larger crew that will.
But it's many hands make light work.
Yes.
Yes.
And that means quick, and that means cheap.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
So we would need a motion to award the painting of the Gateway Center to the Vermont Painting Company in the amount of $11,600.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
He made the motion.
Motion made, is there a second?
I'll second.
Made and seconded. Any further discussion? Then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it, motion carries. And I have to admit, when I opened these bids up, I was like, the price difference, because you were there when I opened it, and I just, yeah, he does, he's got great recommendations. Okay,
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Jess.
the next item is the presentation from Casella.
I just want to thank the folks from Casella to come here tonight. We've had some questions recently about their expansion, and Joe is very willing to come up and set up this presentation for us, which I'm sure will be very educational. We have a very collegial working relationship with Casella, and it's one that I have a great appreciation for because we are not in a waste district. We are our own waste district, so Casella is our primary resource. So it is a pleasure to have you guys here. There's somebody from Burlington, or 2 guys from Burlington to do this, right?
Middlesex, not as far as
Middlesex.
Burlington.
Oh, that's
Only a little closer.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks, guys, and with that, I'll turn it over.
Thank you. So my name's Joe Gay. I'm an engineer with Casella. I've been coming up to this landfill for about 19 years, overseeing the permitting and compliance and engineering and construction. And thanks for having us. We want to come in and present what our expansion is and what it isn't, and perhaps answer any questions that you guys might have about the expansion. You may have seen in the paper some notices about the expansion. I will say that, we'll be going through permitting over the next probably year and a half, perhaps 2 years. Hopefully not, but the process takes quite a bit of time. So in April, we submitted one of 2 of our larger permits requests, and that is our solid waste permit application. Went in the 1st of April, and we expect to submit our Act 250 permit in the middle of July. So as that continues on, you'll see notices in the paper, and we also annually have an open house. It's an opportunity for folks to come up and see the landfill in person, get a tour. We're building a cell this year, which I'll get into a little bit more detail. It's a good opportunity to see the liner system, the containment system of these new landfills. So just to get everybody oriented here, this is Airport Road here. Route 5 is just off the screen here. North is up the page. I just see a little north arrow right there. So, can you see that, Laura? So this area in gray is about 80 acres. That's all permitted. It's existing. It's where the trash is going today. This little green area here, this darker green area, is a 4.9 acre cell that we're building this year. This is the cell that, and by the way, you know, there's an open invitation if anybody wanted to come up and see what we're doing one-on-one. You've got my phone number, call me, we'll get you up there, we'll show you what's going on. But we're building that cell this summer. And not unlike paving or other things that occur across the state of Vermont, a lot of what we do has to happen in the summer. We're going to talk about the welding of the plastic, and there's certain weather elements and temperatures that are suitable for welding, and then temperatures and elements that aren't suitable for welding. So, like paving, a lot of what we have to do in the summer. So, some folks may recall there's an old unlined landfill that's in this area here. That was waste that was deposited in that section of the site long before we owned the site. It was a municipal solid waste unlined landfill, not unlike a lot of the towns had across the state, where the trash went in, your local town dump and replaced, and then in the early 90s, the federal government and the state of Vermont got involved with new regulations looking at better methods to dispose of our waste than putting it in the environment versus putting it in a contained system that we now do today. This dark blue area is a future expansion area where we actually want to take the waste from the unlined landfill and put it in a line cell here, clean up this area, and then reline this area. My pointer's not very steady, I'm sorry about that. And one of the things we want to do is, there's stories where the trash had gone in this area here, and you come back the next day and the trash would be gone. It was placed in wetlands, okay? They put the trash in there, come back the next day and the waste would be gone, they just put more waste in there, and then more waste in there, and it just kept disappearing. So what we want to do eventually is restore that wetland buffer, pull all that trash back, get it in a lined landfill, remediate any contaminated soil or groundwater, put that in the lined landfill, and essentially remediate that whole unlined cell. But that's not what we're here to talk about tonight. What we're here to talk about tonight is our 53-acre expansion, which is this green area here. So this is a 53-acre expansion that's proposed. Again, this is on top of the 80 acres in this gray. It would also be connected to the gray, physically connected to liner systems. And we would expand further to the south, closer to the airport, which is here. You can see the end of the runway there. And we started about 3 years ago looking at this expansion. And one of the first things that we knew we had to do was talk to the folks with the airport, V-Trans. We started talking to them. They had runway expansion plans. We had landfill expansion plans. We're neighbors, we're abutters. So we wanted to disclose what our future plans were. They had some needs to talk to us about some things. So we sat down, developed a memorandum of understanding. One thing that resulted, or a couple things that resulted, is this little triangle here is 11 acres. We're conveying this parcel, having conveyed that parcel over to V-Trans. They needed some safety, they needed more space for safety considerations off this runway right here. So we didn't really have a need for this corner, so we've conveyed that over to them. And that helped them get some of their funding for their runway expansion. And then something else that came out of all this was there's a long property line right here that goes all the way to the back. So there's Airport Road, there's the property line, and then back in here there's a little meadow, and then this is all state of Vermont property down in here. And so Fish and Wildlife came to us and said, hey, we really want people to be able to get from Airport Road to the back and to be able to recreate down here, hunt, fish, hike, and so forth. So in cooperation with V-Trans, we agreed to develop a 20-foot right-of-way to allow access back to this area back here. And Fish and Wildlife, Vermont Fish and Wildlife will maintain that. But that'll be theirs to have to be able to access to the back of the property. And then this area in orange is all soil stockpile. So this area in here is all soil. What's proposed is the excavation from this area would get placed over into this area here, some of which we've already placed. You can kind of see down in this area, this is all soil stockpile, and that would be elevated here and then here as well. And of course, with the runways being here and here, there's certain approach surfaces and departure surfaces for the planes that we can't penetrate. So our soil stockpiles have all been designed to conform to the departure and runway surfaces, and all reviewed by FAA and V-Trans. So that's what that area is in orange. Okay. Any questions on any of that? We can come back to any of this as well. So this is going to get a little tough to see on the PowerPoint. It's very clear. It's a little bit tough to see in here, but what I want to do is explain how the containment system of these new landfills works and how it's constructed. When we go in to excavate, that might help a little bit. Thanks. When we go in to excavate, the landfill cell itself is down in the groundwater table. So not unlike a foundation around your house, you don't want water in your basement. We don't want water in the base of the landfill, so you install piping to get that water to drain out freely. And so over the 53 acres, as we have the existing 80 acres, we have to push that water table down. The state requires a 6-foot separation from garbage, so I'm 6 feet tall. So from here to the floor, a 6-foot separation between the trash and groundwater. They also require a 10-foot separation between trash and bedrock. So underneath the landfill, you can't be any closer than 6 feet to the groundwater and 10 feet to bedrock. So when we design the landfill, we don't have to worry about bedrock because that's down far enough. But the groundwater is there, so we have to essentially push the groundwater down through the collection system, and then the groundwater drains through a pipe underneath the landfill and daylights into the wetlands, and that discharge location is sampled monthly, okay, in case there was a breach in the containment system. So every month we're going out getting samples to get any early detection if there was a problem with the landfill. We have the same underdrain system in the area in gray that I referenced before. There's actually 4 locations where there's a pipe coming out of the ground, and we can sample that discharge. But the important thing to note is here, we over-excavate the landfill by 6 feet. We put a sand drainage blanket in, stone, pipe, a system to push that groundwater table down. Then we recompact 5 feet of the on-site native till all the way up to this layer right here. And I should also point out that everything we do with the landfill has a double containment. There's a pipe and a pipe, a tank and a tank, a liner over a liner, backup power to a primary power. Everything we do is redundant. So if the primary systems were to fail, there's a backup system. So across the 53 acres, we place what we call a secondary liner, and that's this layer right here. And I brought samples. So I'm going to pass this around. These are 2 samples. There's 2 types of welds on the liner. Now, this liner comes in a 22-foot wide roll, so maybe the width of this room. Okay, so it's a big roll. When you roll one panel out, you move the roll over, you pull another panel out, and they overlap by 6 inches, which is just about that. So the 2 liners overlap. And then there's a weld that's conducted on the 2 liners. And it's called a double fusion weld. And when you look down the edge of the liner, you can you'll have to see it up close, but there's a air channel between the two welds, and once the weld is done, and the machine that does the welding could go 2,000 feet across the cell, all right, and then you'll have this double weld across that 2,000 feet. They take one end and they melt the liner and seal it off, and then they take the other end, melt the liner, and stick a pressure needle into.
Is that one or two liners there?
It's one liner, but it's the overlap.
Right, no, but, so that's just the one liners, but you actually said you have two of those on top?
Yes.
That's what I wanted to
Yes.
know, if that was the thickness of just one or two?
This is the thickness of one.
One, so you have two of
So
those.
let's think of this as the secondary liner. So over that 53 acres, you'll have this plastic, and every 22 feet, you'll have this overlap, 6-inch overlap where the weld is done. We pressurize this air channel, test it to make sure that it's a good passing weld, and continue to do that across the entire 53 acres. This is a little bit different weld. It's not as common as this weld. This is more for patches. This is called an extrusion weld. And again, you've got the top piece of liner here, a bottom piece of liner underneath, and you basically take a little grinding wheel and you grind where these two pieces of plastic come together, and you weld it, and that gets a test as well. Okay, so we can talk in any detail on the welding or anything like that, but this is 60 mil high density polyethylene liner over the 53 acres once, get it done, and then 12 inches above that, we put another layer on. So if anything was to penetrate that upper liner, it drains down through and gets into the secondary liner. Okay, so that's the other weld. If you
I'm
look at it,
assuming the soil helped filter out. I'm thinking of caustic material that might eat away at the liner.
yeah, so there's laboratory studies that have been done on that material, on that liner, and they expect that liner to last upwards of 500 to 1,000 years. So they've had to extrapolate that, right? Because we haven't had this material for 500 or 1,000 years.
Right.
But there's laboratory testing that suggests that it will last 500 to 1,000 years. And we've actually gone in and excavated trash out of cells that we put that in 15 years ago, and we're able to open it up, look at it, and it's like it was brand new. And we're able to weld new liner to old liner.
One question, well, a few questions maybe. The base underneath this, primary line, secondary line. Is it sand? Is there aggregate to it?
It's a good question. So, it's, again, hard to see here, but we compact the native glacial till that is up naturally, that exists naturally at the site, which is a great foundation for the landfill. There's 5 feet of that right there. And then the last foot, which is right here, we screen that till to 1 inch minus. So nothing bigger than 1 inch, okay, through a screener, is placed as a bedding layer for that first layer of liner, which is the secondary liner that gets laid out.
Okay, next question. What kind of a grade do you use in the slope?
Yep.
Because this doesn't seem to be all that flexible really. And what would be the bursting pressure of this? In other words, with this crack underneath,
No.
anything that's gonna penetrate this?
No, so we place that liner directly on that 12 inches of screen bedding. While that will flex some, you really don't want it to flex a whole lot, because you want it, it's like pouring concrete on a foundation. You want that foundation solid, so that rests directly onto that 12 inches of screen bedding material. So that's how that works. Now, there is testing that's done in the laboratory on puncture resistance, and Brian, you could speak more to some of that, but yeah.
There's a lot of quality control that goes into this. There's staff with the engineering from Sanborn Head. We do all the QA/QC for Casella at the site here, and so we actually have staff on site They're there right now building overseeing the NEK-TV construction. They're actually out there doing all this testing, and prior to this material even being shipped to the site, it has to be approved and meet specifications. So the puncture resistance, the different types of temperature resistance, all that stuff is specified up front. We've done kind of the engineering behind that, and the manufacturer has to show that material meets those specifications before it even gets approved to be shipped to the landfill. And then it's checked again once it's arrived. Actually do what's called conformance testing on the material once it arrives. Back check the manufacturer's testing to make sure that it's done in accordance with the spec.
And so you would also take into consideration any shifting of the ground?
So
That would,
so the material, this HDPE, so shifting the ground, there really is no shifting the ground, because what you're doing is you're putting in this bedding layer and compacted lifts. Again, it's all engineered, so you're putting 1 foot compacted lifts. All that 5 feet of material, really 6 feet of material is done in 1 foot compacted lifts, and we actually go out there with, it's called a nuclear density gauge. We test that compaction to make sure that it meets a certain percentage. And so when you get your base level down for that material, the HDPE goes down, it's actually almost like walking in concrete. It's really firm. And so there is no settling of that material.
So we've gotten to the first layer of liner. On top of that is a synthetic material called a composite geonet, and I'll pass that around. The main function of that is to provide an efficient drainage off of whatever might get through that upper liner onto that second liner. That provides efficient drainage. Oh, and I gotta go back and answer your other question. 33% is the maximum grade you can have per state regulation on slope, so it can't be any steeper than 33%. And then the minimum slope you can have in the landfill is 5%. Or is it 2?
It's 2, well,
2.5.
5% is for the cap.
5%.
2% is what this is
2%. So 2% in the base. So we'll cut the slopes down at a 3-to-1, get to where we can be within 6 feet of the groundwater, and then 2% to what we develop as a sump. Not unlike a bathtub. Everything is tipped to one low spot. We have pipes in there that pump the leachate, which is the wastewater, out of the landfill. So hopefully that answers all your questions.
thank you.
That you have is a drainage media that rests directly, you can't see it by eye, but it rests directly on top of that primary liner, or I'm sorry, the secondary liner. On top of that, there's 12 inches of sand up to the primary liner, which is here. And then on top of that, another layer of that stuff, which is the composite geonet. And then on top of that, 18 inches of sand. And it's up here that the trash is finally placed. Once the state approves the landfill that was constructed, okay, we can't put any trash in there until the state signs off on it, but when they sign off on it, then the trash can go in.
Joe, sorry to interrupt, do you want to touch on the geosynthetic clay liner as well?
Yeah, so we also put a material, I don't have a sample here, underneath the primary liner in areas where of the landfill containment system that might be critical, like under a pipe or at the toes of slope, in the sump where leachate sits, in ponds until it's pumped out. Casella puts a third level of protection to the environment called a geosynthetic clay liner. And its function is it's bentonite clay sandwiched between 2 layers of fabric. And if it gets wet, it swells and it seals a leak from underneath. That's not required by the regulations in the state of Vermont, but we do it at this site. So it's an extra level of protection to the environment. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. Okay, so this is a picture of some of the layers going down. You can see the geomembrane there going down. These are the 22-foot wide panels being deployed down to the base of the landfill. This white material is that geosynthetic clay liner that I just spoke of. That's not required by rule, but we put it in. Here's the sand that's on top of the secondary liner. Now as I go down the page here, we're going downhill too, okay? So now you can see the composite geonet, which is this fabric that's on top of the secondary liner. And then just start to see, kind of hard to tell, but that's the secondary liner that's just underneath the composite geonet. So you can kind of see the layers as you progress up the cell. Secondary liner, secondary composite, secondary liner sand, GCL, primary liner, and the composite for the primary hasn't gone down yet. But if it did, you'd see that, and then on top of that, 18 inches of sand before the trash goes in. This is just a grading plan. It's kind of busy, but here's our expansion area here. These are the grades for the soil stockpile. The airport's over here. So we often refer to the construction of these landfills as done with cells. So we don't build 53 acres all at once. We do 8, 10, 12 acre cells at a time. And we do that for a lot of reasons, mostly cost, and we really don't need all that space at once. So we build it sort of as we need it. And so this kind of delineates.
How many years?
Probably about, at the current rates, if they don't go up, if they don't go down, about 22 years, this capacity right here. So this is the first cell. This is the second cell, and we're going to walk down through it. Each slide kind of shows the cells independently. But the point of this slide is, I just want to show you that it's segmented up into 5 different cells.
It also shows the underdrain, Joe.
Okay, so yeah, so these pipes here, these blue lines here, all, does it go out right here, Brian?
That's the line, CDUD right there.
This one here?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, okay. So right here is the base of the landfill. That's the drain in your bathtub, so to speak. Except there's no drain; it's contained. In the 6 feet underneath the liner system, we have all these pipes. They come out clean. There's a clean out here. They go down to the base of the landfill here. They all drain by gravity. There's one all the way down. There's another one here. So that's the system, and then on these slopes right here, there's a sand blanket. And that's the system that keeps the groundwater 6 feet below the liner system at all times. And then where the water goes is way down at the base of the slope, way off the picture here. And that's what's tested once a month. So if something was to ever get through the primary liner, it would get collected in that secondary liner, which also has a collection system. And then if, Lord forbid, anything got through that second liner system, it would get detected in that underdrain system. And to date, we have had no detections in any of the existing underdrain systems at the site. Not all landfills have this underdrain, so it's really kind of a third level of protection to the environment.
You test monthly?
Yeah.
Is it independent, or do you test?
No, it's independent. We hire consultants to do that. Yeah, we're going to get to that. I know you got other things on the agenda, so
No, I think it's good to have all this answered.
Yeah, and any questions you have on me,
One question too, the underdrain, it's designed so you can cap it off.
Yeah. If there was ever an issue with the underdrain, we'll be able to capture that and treat it as a wastewater.
Okay, then this is phase 6 here.
This is phase 6, correct?
Now, phase 4 drains into this?
No.
Okay.
Phase 4 is completely independent of phase 6.
Because phase 4 is over,
Yes.
closer to the other.
And there's a berm. Think of this as phase 4 over here. This is phase 6 over here.
Okay.
There's a big soil berm that keeps anything separate.
Okay.
2 separate underdrain collection systems entirely. Each phase has its own separate underdrain collection.
You can
Okay,
see the
because at the
berm.
top, it shows phase 4.
Yeah, it does. These are closure grades.
Okay.
These are closure grades, yeah. So now this is the berm right here. From here down, that's the berm I just spoke of. And then if we were to show the liner grades over here in phase 4, they do the same thing but going in the opposite direction. You know what I'm saying? So it's, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
So there's the first cell, highlighted in that beige color. That's the area we line first in phase 6. Second, and this also reflects the closure grades or the trash grades of that first cell. Third cell, fourth cell, fifth cell, and then, I'm gonna go back, yeah. And that doesn't show the final grades, the next slide, but there will be final grades after that.
I'm glad you had the one that. How high, is it gonna be any much higher than what we see now?
It is, yeah.
It's gonna be higher than what we see now?
Yeah, so this is what you see now, this is what's approved. And this is what it would look like with phase 6. So this.
And that height doesn't affect the airport at all?
No.
For aircraft coming in and takeoff and landing and any future commercial that's being, or charter or?
All designed specifically to stay in compliance with the
Okay.
approach services and departure services.
Okay, I'm just-
Yeah. And if I go back one, you can, okay. So if you look at, anybody that appreciates grading, you see how these contour lines are spaced far apart? Ideally, these would all be close together like this all the way around this corner, but because of the runway down here, we had to keep the landfills, the top of the landfill way down further than we would have liked to have. Overall, the height wouldn't have changed, but on the back side of the landfill, we would have more trash in there, but we couldn't to meet those conditions.
The very first slide, Joe, might be clear for everyone to look at, when we go back from there.
I'm not very good to these clickers, so I'm not going to look too far back. Unless you guys want to.
No.
Okay.
Okay. No, I was just,
No, that's good.
the height of the landfill.
Mhm.
As you probably already know, we get a lot of complaints in Newport for odor from the landfill. And I know I called one time, this was a couple years ago, and one of your employees came and picked me up and gave me a tour, because he didn't think I knew what landfill smelled like. And I knew what the landfill smelled like, and I proved it to the gentleman, that I knew the odor we were getting from the landfill.
Yep, I remember that specifically.
Yes, and the gentleman said, I'm going to teach you about landfill odors. Well, I knew all the odors already. And you know, the biggest concern I have, it looks like it's being engineered, you know, and everything's going to last. God forbid it ever leaks into the lake, because we do get our water over here. Is the odor. We are constantly getting, you go out the Coventry Road, and you can smell that odor a lot, and I get a lot of complaints. And if I, you know, certain weather conditions, yes, I can understand, but there's a lot of times we get the awful methane smell, like it's not being burned, you know, the electric, whatever, is not using enough of it, and then we get other odors. I know Mr. Wilson's shaking his head, but that's the biggest complaint I get from the landfill, is the odor. And I'm concerned with this new expansion. It's unfortunate that we're the only, we have to get the entire state's trash up here. When I knew that there was another permitted landfill that never went anywhere. Over in, of course it's in Chittenden County, in a certain area that, God forbid, they build a landfill over there. Nothing against you, but you know what I'm saying? It's a philosophical issue I have with that we get the state's entire trash up here. And we're stuck with the odor at times.
So we take odor seriously. I want you to understand that, and I know you have my direct line, and we've received 5 odor complaints in 2017. We haven't heard from you. You mentioned you're constantly getting them. We're not getting those, so it's important for us to get those immediately, because there might be something that's going on that we need to research. So it's very valuable for us to get real time. I smell it. I'm on Coventry Station Road or Coventry Road, and I'm by the city's pump station. And I smell it right here. Well, we'll come right down, and we want to know what it is.
So I think the problem is when it gets reported to me, it's after the fact, because you really need to know the date, the time.
Right.
And that's the issue. People, mention to me a lot of times after the fact.
Yeah, that's tough.
That's the tough issue. Because usually if I've smelled it, I haven't called this year, but no, when I have smelled it, unfortunately, I didn't call you the day I did, but I think the issue is a lot of people don't put down the exact date and time.
Right, well, that's important for us to know, because we will follow up on that. And we're going to get into some of what we do up to the site to help control the odors. It's not like we're just willingly let letting landfill gas odors get away. And methane, by the way, doesn't smell.
Well, not
It's-
methane, but it's.
Landfill gas does.
It's the landfill gas.
Yeah.
I call it methane, but it's the landfill
Yeah,
gas.
so landfill gas is about 50% methane, which is explosive, and 48% carbon dioxide.
Right.
And then 2% non-methane organics, and it's in that 2% of the gas that you're actually smelling. That's where the odors come from. And so the odors, if, you know, and it's an 80-acre big bag of garbage.
I know.
And we're protecting the groundwater from what we've just explained. We're applying a vacuum, and I know you know this, but maybe not everybody knows this. We have a vacuum that applied to that whole landfill. And, you know, the area where the trash is going today and tomorrow and next week, we don't have vacuum because we can't have pipes in there. But as we move away from that, the pipes go in, we're vacuuming up. And like I mentioned earlier, we have to do a lot of this in the summer, right? We can't do it in the winter because of the conditions of the slopes and so forth. So it's now that we're in there, you know, expanding that gas system to try to control the odors and stay ahead of fugitive emissions from the landfill. So it's now, when we're actively doing that, you might, you know, get an odor from the active, you know, expanding of the gas system. But we're going to come back to landfill gas and can continue to answer any questions you guys might have. We take it seriously, but it's important that we know when you smell it so we can react to it and try to find out, because believe it or not, it's not always us. And sometimes it is. So, you know, sometimes just the trucks coming in and out have odor. You know, you might get behind a truck and smell something, and it's the truck, not necessarily the landfill. I get it, it's all sort of interrelated, but that's a big difference for me, because it's my job to make sure we're not having an impact on the community. And if it's a truck, I don't know if I can help that. But if it's my landfill, maybe there's something we need to be doing differently. And so we take that serious. Trust me, if I had John Casella sitting right here and he knew odors were getting away from us, you know, there would be somebody getting called to the table. Seriously. So.
Your drivers and not only experiences the odor up where the water tower is.
You know, some of the complaint that we've had in 17 has been from a gentleman that's coming in from that way. And we're trying to get our arms around that. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I just want you to know that we're heavily regulated. We have the solid waste permit that regulates the containment system of a landfill and how it's designed. We have an air pollution control permit. We have 3 different stormwater discharge permits. We have leachate discharge permits. Our wastewater goes to your, some of our wastewater goes to your wastewater treatment plant. There's federal permits. We're regulated by federal wetlands regulations. And we have a full-blown site spill prevention control plan, stormwater pollution prevention plan, and on and on and on. We're heavily regulated. We recently had an inspection from A&R. It was probably the best inspection, you know, so it's a 50-page inspection. And maybe it's not 50, maybe 30, but it's a big report. And it was probably the best inspection the site's ever had. So we encourage you to come up to the open houses, to see what we do, ask questions. We want to be transparent with what goes on up there. It's not the landfill that some of us grew up with, right? It's not. It's very different.
That leachate, you have to ship that out, correct?
Yes.
A lot of it goes to the, because we can only treat so much
That's right.
here.
Yeah, this landfill produces about 10 million gallons of wastewater. And the majority of it goes to the Montpelier wastewater treatment plant. You guys get some. And we're also permitted in Plattsburgh, New York, Burlington, Essex, Barry, and I forget, Concord, New Hampshire.
Just because we can only treat so much.
Because you can only treat so much.
Is our water tested after the leachate goes into our system? Is our water tested when it comes out?
Our wastewater plant treats it completely.
I know, but is it tested as the wastewater comes out? Do you have any
Well,
sort of
no,
testing?
our wastewater plant is thoroughly regulated by the state, and we're under heavy inspection. So when we treat it, it's treated just like basically sewer coming in, except, you know, it's more regulated because of the heavy metals, possibly, I believe. And Tom's here, he could answer all that, I think, or he was. Is it the heavy metals in the leachate?
You did a very good job, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'm learning about all this stuff too.
And the detention pond that's been in, that's the temporary storage for that material?
So no, our leachate is not temporarily stored in ponds. Our leachate is temporarily stored in a 438,000 gallon double-walled AST, when I say AST, above ground storage tank. So it's the big farm looking tank. And that tank is, when you see it, is actually the secondary containment. There's actually a tank inside that tank. The roof spans the outer vessel. The actual holding tank is inside of that without a roof. And that's where it's temporarily stored.
And the detention pond that's on there, what is that?
Stormwater.
That is just stormwater?
Yeah, we have multiple stormwater detention ponds, and that too gets sampled.
But that's more of a feature of the drainage of just the area.
Just runoff.
Yeah, not really related to the, okay.
Correct.
I was curious about that.
Yeah, correct. So it's kind of hard to tell, but we have a stormwater pond here. We have a stormwater pond here. We have a big pond, you can probably see it when you drive by Airport Road, right here. We have a small one here, and a couple of big ones here, one here and one over here. Yeah, so we have a lot of, and like I said earlier, we have 3 permits that we have to comply with for stormwater regulations. This particular plan, it's kind of hard to tell, I apologize, it drowns out, but all these yellow dots are groundwater monitoring wells. They're located 360 degrees around the landfill. So the groundwater typically runs from this side of the landfill across to that side of the landfill. So obviously this is the Black River here. This is Route 5 here. And so, you know, this is what we call up-gradient wells. The wells on this side of the landfill, and these are down-gradient. So that groundwater passes below the landfill, so we can test before it gets to the site and then after it leaves the site. Other than some local contamination around the unlined landfill, which is to be expected, there is no impact to the down-gradient wells at this site. This plan is a little more blown up, and it shows all these green and red and orange dots across the landfill are over 100 landfill gas collection points where we are extracting the gas off the landfill. And I think, as many of you know, the gas goes down to a landfill gas to energy facility. The gas is combusted in 5 internal combustion engines, and it creates power for 7,000 Vermonters 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that's managed and operated by Washington Electric Cooperative. We don't own it. We provide them the gas, they maintain it, operate it, and distribute that power to their network in Washington County, Vermont. But these are the gas extraction locations all around the landfill. Up in here is where we're placing the trash currently, so that's why you don't see a lot of dots. And as we move out of that area and move into this area, the dots will start to populate. In fact, we have a gas expansion project scheduled for this fall. Each one of these locations is where the gas is extracted. There's an engineered wellhead here, and we have a technician that goes around with a computer, plugs in once a month, and adjusts the gas accordingly based on what kind of condition the gas is. The energy plant doesn't like to get any more than 2% oxygen, so landfill-rich gas is what they want. The engines have a hard time with oxygen, so we're trying to keep the oxygen out. Obviously that helps reduce any potential for fires as well. But every one of those points, I shouldn't say every one, but almost every one, the computer is hooked up to and analyzed and adjusted once a month. This is a picture of the drill rig that actually is putting in the vertical wells. You might see it from time to time up at the site. Oh, there's the tank too. There's the AST right there. There's the big AST. And then we also have a load out station where the tanker driver drives in, gets out of the elements, and is able to load the leachate into his tanker, not to worry about, you know, freezing rain and everything else. So that's a definite benefit to the facility. So there's the drill rig. He's putting in a vertical well. Basically, there's an 18-inch auger, hollow stem auger that goes down and it pulls up the trash. And eventually he gets down to a point where he's done, and then a pipe goes in and then stone around the outside of that. Perforated pipe down to the base of the well, solid pipe up top. We seal it, and then it's connected to the vacuum system, the vacuum side of the gas collection system. And that's one of the more traditional ways of collecting the gas off the landfill. This is a picture of our open flare. I mentioned redundancy. So 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, the gas goes to the plant. It's just producing power. But every once in a while, they might have an engine or two go down, and it can't keep up with the gas. So we have, in fact, if the whole plant goes down, we have backup systems to be able to manage the gas. So that's an element of second.
Gee, too bad we couldn't tap into all that to heat homes.
Well, we're getting to that. We're getting to that. So these are our backup flares. There's the energy plant there. That's what's running most of the time, but we do have a backup system to be able to manage the gas. So if you look up there and you see a flame, you know, an engine or two or three or four or five are down, you know, for whatever reason, something's happened. The energy plant had a fire, you know, a few years ago. So every once in a while, something will happen, and we got to be ready to manage that gas immediately. I think that most of you know, maybe, that we have a 2.2 megawatt solar farm.
Now that goes into co-op.
Okay.
Does that go into VEC?
No, that goes into Washington Electric.
It does too?
Yeah, it does.
So we don't get any benefit from the power at all?
No, and it just doesn't make sense.
I know.
It doesn't make sense.
No, I know. It's one of those things that they missed the boat. Actually, I kid John Wood about that because he was on the board. I said, we missed the boat on that.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, it was, so, but, you know, we were able to get involved with the renewable energy project through the state of Vermont SPEED program, and we got that renewable energy project up at the site. One thing we're doing that's unique to this site, this year as part of the construction that we've already done, so I have a landfill in New Hampshire I'm responsible for too. We've done this over there. We put geothermal tubing. So, like your home, you've got radiant floor heating, right? You got tubing in the floors. What we're doing is we're putting tubing in the landfill in that sand drainage layer. And as the trash goes in, it starts to cook. Okay, we put glycol through the tubing. It heats up from the decomposition of the waste. It heats up the water in the tubing, and we are going to look to partner with somebody, maybe Ardelia Farms or some sort of vegetable growers, and be able to utilize a greenhouse at the site. We are doing this in New Hampshire. We have a cooperative with the Bethlehem Elementary School, and we are heating a greenhouse for the students at the Bethlehem Elementary School who control the greenhouse over there. So we know it works, and we're excited to do it here as well. And then this just shows a little bit more of the runways. We talked about the 20-foot right-of-way to get access back to the back property, the 11 acres. This shows the grading a little bit more prominent. You can see the landfill's kind of chopped off here because of the approach surfaces. Ideally, we have these tight contours all the way around, but because of that restriction, Paul, that you were asking about earlier, that slope is going to be a lot gentler. And that's the PowerPoint.
Great. Any additional questions from council members?
Yeah, I've got a dumb question.
There is no dumb question.
On your auger, when it goes down, How do they know how far to go so they don't penetrate the liner?
Yeah, great question.
Yes.
Yeah, so we take a spot elevation on where the wall's gonna go. We have these guys, they already know what the liner grade is. We stay 20 feet above the base of the containment system. So we have a 20-foot cushion of safety there. And we have a full-time inspector when the auger's going down, they're observing what's coming out. That has happened, not at our sites, but that has happened before. So that'd be a real problem.
Yeah, that would be.
Thank you.
Anything else?
On a different but related topic, we're a couple of years away from Vermont universal recycling or composting. Is there any plan for this site to do exclusively organic material kind of things, or in our region, is Casella developing that kind of a thing with that upcoming need?
Not that I'm aware of, not at this time. There is a couple of locations. There's the Black Dirt Farm, and there's one other. And I think they're sort of assessing whether or not economically it works to expand. We want to see maybe experts like that consider taking it on. We have an organics division, but frankly, economically, it's a little tough up here.
Sure. Well, especially in the enormous Northeast Kingdom waste management district.
Yeah.
Of course, Newport's a little bit different. But
Right.
Okay.
Right. It's going to be interesting to see over the next couple of years what happens with the organics ban.
There was one question from the audience.
Yeah, as I understand it, Casella takes waste from other states as well as from all of Vermont. And my question is, how do you guys control what kind of waste is coming in? For instance, hazardous waste, nuclear waste coming in a truck. How do you guys even know what's coming into your landfill so that you have a way of controlling it?
Yeah. So, good question. So we only take municipal solid waste from people of the state of Vermont. So what does that mean? So your household garbage only comes from the state of Vermont. We do take what is called special waste from outside of the state of Vermont. That's things like contaminated soil, sludge, like we take the city of Newport sludge and other city sludge. Montpelier and others.
But sewer sludge?
Yep. Yep. So any special waste gets approved by A&R before it comes in. So yes, we do take waste from out of state, but it's not the regular garbage that you might think of. It's a special waste and it's pre-approved by A&R before it comes. We're taking a contaminated soil project from, I believe from Massachusetts right now.
What do you mean by contaminated?
So it's a material that's not hazardous, it's been tested, that's not hazardous, and once it's determined not to be hazardous and the state approves it, we can take it.
Basically, the sludge, the city, we used to spread our sludge off in a field. We had permitted to do it, but then the level, there was a arsenic level was too high in the sludge to meet the state regulations, and so it goes to the landfill now. And that's basically how it's treated, because if not, we would have had to ship it, who knows where.
And, you know, to be honest with you, one of the existing odor issues that we seem to have is sludge. It's, you know, not only the loaded trucks coming in, even the empty trucks smell when they leave. And so we're trying to work with the wastewater treatment plants to come up with some sort of system to get the odors under control at the source. So when they, you know, when they arrive here, they're not as bad as they are today. We're working with A&R trying to get some support from them. It's getting to the point where we may have to shut off some of the wastewater treatment plants because that is by far our most odorous waste stream that comes in.
Okay, real quick, because we got to move on.
I talk fast.
Okay, no, because I just looked at the clock and we got a big agenda.
The unlined area that you're going to be putting into the lined area, When is that going to happen? And what kind of testing is going to be done in that unlined area? And the reason I ask is because what we've heard basically affects Coventry and Washington Electric, but that would definitely affect us if there's any runoff that could get into the lake, and it's very near the wetlands.
Yeah, so if we were to get all of our permits, and you saw the list, like we're permitting phase 6 now, the unlined landfill project, if it was permitted, we would build a new line cell adjacent. We would excavate the waste down to about ground level, put it in a line cell, and then conceptually, we've got to get permits, and the regulators may have some different ideas, but we would put sheet piling in between the wetlands and the waste, and it would keep separated clean from dirty, and we would go down and take all the rest of the trash out, move that over into the line landfill. We'd have to de-water because we expect clean water to run into the contaminated area. We'd pump that into the landfill as leachate, and then excavate any remaining soils, have those tested until they were clean, put those in the line landfill, and then start putting clean fill back in, and then remove the sheet piling and build the base of the next cell next to it. And restore that wetland buffer, wetland limit, back to hopefully it's what it was originally at one point in time.
And when do you think this?
22 years or so from now.
Oh, well, I don't do very well.
Okay, great, thank you. The next item is the NCRC 2016 Reinvestment Statistics and discussion on the renewal of the designated downtown.
Evening about 5:30.
5:30?
Yeah.
Stop on the way.
I'd rather get it in early, 7:30. 10 minutes. This is the third of 10. It's serious. It's the, other than seminary, the most difficult things on the track organization. It's through the spiritual care department of the university hospital. It's licensed to perform medicine. Not that many that are. Actually, it's a relatively small one. 3. A lot of attention going to inspector.
Okay.
Okay, Karen.
So, thank you for having us tonight. We have almost all of our board members here. Tara McQuillan from Community National Bank, Claudio Fort from North Country Hospital, Laura Dolgan, of course, from the city, and listening tonight is Conrad Bellavance from Fred's Plumbing and Heating. So we are here tonight to briefly discuss the reinvestment statistics and the application for downtown redesignation. And for perhaps some of the newer members of the council, we thought we would just do, and also because it's been a few years since you've gone through a redesignation, we would just briefly go over what the process is and what needs to happen and why, and before we discuss some of the reinvestment statistics. So what is it, the Designated Downtown Program? So it is essentially a program through the Agency of Commerce and Community Development. It's a state program, and it's been around since 1999, and it provides communities like ours with financial incentives, training and technical assistance to support local efforts to restore historic buildings, improve our housing, design walkable communities, and encourage economic development by incentivizing public and private investments. So how does a community receive designation? So the application for the designation are made to the program by the municipality. The State of Vermont Downtown Board reviews the application for approval, and a community must be designated before it can receive benefits, including tax credits and state grants. The designation is for 5 years by the State of Vermont Downtown Board, and after the initial 5 years, it's the municipality that must renew the designation and update the board on its progress, and also demonstrate that it continues to meet all of the program requirements. So what is the Community Reinvestment Agreement? So as part of this designation, the municipality provides what's known as a Community Reinvestment Agreement, which would demonstrate a broad range of downtown interests that are committed and willing to participate in downtown revitalization efforts. It includes the designated boundaries, we'll talk about that in a moment, capital improvement plan, funding and resources, as well as organizational structure and a strategic plan. So there's a lot of components to this reinvestment agreement as well as the redesignation. So what is the downtown, where is the downtown designation? So by the state definition, the downtown is the traditional central business district of a community that has served as the focus of socioeconomic interaction in the community. It's characterized by a cohesive core of commercial, mixed-use buildings, some of which may contain mixed-use spaces. It's often interspersed with civic, religious, residential, and industrial businesses and public spaces, typically arranged along a main street, intersecting side streets that are within walking distance for residents who live within and around the surrounding core, and that it's served by public infrastructure such as sidewalks and public transit. So a map of the boundary of the designated downtown is created with the application, and the downtown district must contain or be part of the historic district of the community. How is the designation maintained? There has to be an organizational structure to sustain the comprehensive and long-term downtown revitalization effort. So either a downtown development nonprofit corporation or a municipally created commission must be designated by the municipality as the organization responsible for implementing the reinvestment agreement. And the primary responsibility of that organization is the revitalization of the downtown district. So what are the benefits of this program? And we've discussed this a little bit before, but there are a range of program benefits, including downtown and village center tax credits, there's historic tax credits, there are code improvement tax credits, there's a 50% technology tax credit, there's the downtown transportation fund, you get a certain priority for state grants, there's a certain amount of points that are given if you're a designated downtown. Traffic calming, signage options. The downtown that's designated gets priority consideration by state buildings and general services for projects. You can create a special assessment district. There are Act 250 benefits, no permit fees and a reduced criteria for development, which saves on development cost. And there's a neighborhood development area eligibility. So those are just some of the benefits that the downtown receives from this program. From the state perspective, by the numbers, this is a current statement. There are 23 designated downtowns across the state. Newport is one of them. 121 tax projects were awarded, 10.4 million in tax credits, 1.9 million in downtown transportation grants, which is significant considering those are $100,000 grants. 10.9 million in local funds that are leveraged with downtown transportation funds, and over $213 million in private funds that are leveraged with tax credits. So those are the numbers across the state for the benefits in this program. So what does this mean for Newport? So the city of Newport in 2007 applied for and received the downtown designated status. It renewed in 2012. So it applied for it, went through the process, and received redesignation for its downtown. Then in 2007, we talked about an organizational structure that's needed to maintain the designation. So the city of Newport appointed the Newport City Renaissance Corporation as the organization responsible for implementing the reinvestment agreement and maintaining the downtown designation. Also in 2007, the boundary map was created of the designated downtown district. And you can see that contains essentially from 3rd Street all around Coventry Street and over across the causeway right to the end of that intersection. So that forms what's known as our designated downtown. So that's the district that receives the special benefits and meets the definition of downtown district for the state. So our benefits since the creation of the designated downtown for Newport are substantial. And we list the years there. This doesn't include some of the newer things that have happened in 2017, but through 2016 we've received nearly $600,000 in tax credits, which has promoted $8.2 million in private investment in our downtown. For our municipal planning grants, and again that doesn't count the planning grants that we've received this year, there are over $44,000 in municipal planning grants, and we can go through, if you're interested at some point, we can certainly tell you what the planning grants were used for. Wayfinding signage from the Downtown Transportation Fund of $5,000. Vermont Community Development Program grants, we received special consideration for those, and over $851,000 in those grants brought into Newport through the designation benefits. So the direct benefits of Newport's downtown designation since its inception through this past year is almost $1.5 million with at least $8.2 million in private investment. So that's a significant return on investment for this designation. So we are up for redesignation in November of 2017. So what that means is you have in your packets the letter that was sent by the state notifying the city and the downtown organization as well as NVDA that Newport is up for redesignation this year. So we have a preliminary application for redesignation due to the Agency of Commerce and Community Development in 8 weeks. And that is a substantial amount of work, but fortunately it's the preliminary application. So the final renewal application is due to the Agency of Commerce and Community Development November 6th. And the State of Vermont Downtown Board will consider the application at their board meeting November 27th. All things being equal, we would assume redesignation. So essentially, that's where we are at this point. So the Newport City Renaissance Board is here tonight to ask the city whether it wants to go for redesignation, and if so, certainly NCRC is happy to work on these materials in coordination with the city to move this process forward.
Well, I think it's important that we renew it based upon the return on the investment from between the tax credits to the private investment. And we have more development that needs to happen downtown, and it's a tool that whatever happens across the street, it'll be a tool for whomever to possibly get tax credits to help redevelop that property. And I just think it's very important that we renew it, because we've seen the benefit of it.
Yeah. It does provide incentive for developers to come in the situation that we're in right now with an obvious development need for our downtown. For example, there is, just for the city, the sales tax reallocation benefit. So on any new construction in the downtown, the sales tax is reallocated to the municipality. So for example, Maple Fields that opened in 2014, I checked. The city didn't apply for that tax money that would have been reallocated back into the city from that new development.
I didn't know about it.
Right, so exactly. So this points to an issue of, it's important, I mean, the council certainly is aware of the benefits, but we also have to have our planning folks, where we start with permitting, being fully aware of what this program does, so that not only they can present the benefits to potential developers and at the permitting stage, but that they can sort of give us the heads up, because as the downtown organization, we wouldn't necessarily know about development until it's well into it. And to get those particular monies, the municipality and the developer have to apply for those tax credits together. So even if the downtown organization wanted to do it, it can't do it on behalf of the municipality. But it is a benefit. That money, the sales tax reallocation for all, it's based on the construction materials of all new development in downtown. So that's a significant amount of money, particularly if we're looking at what would need to go in across the street. So that's just one.
And that comes directly to the municipality.
Comes to the municipality, and it's to be used for things like anything that have to offset, like sidewalks, wastewater, sewer, and so forth for any new development. So that's money that would be well spent in the community, and that's a benefit. We should be sure that we're taking full advantage of these benefits.
Especially with Mr. Bove and potential Newberry's building, whatever he puts into that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we did just a thumbnail calculation on that, and that would be $54,000 in sales tax reallocation. So that would be coming into the municipality. So essentially, the redesignation requires, again, a continuation of looking at the map, the boundaries, so submitting that, continuing the downtown organization that functions as the organization to maintain the designation, and a commitment from the municipality to submit the reinvestment agreement. So there's several pieces that go into this, and certainly we would work with Laura and the Planning Commission on things like the strategic plan, the city plan for wastewater, all of the pieces that they need to see in terms of what goes into downtown development.
Can we expand it? I'm thinking go across the street to Gardner Park, because with a lot of the plan for there to improve it, it'd be nice if we could have that as part of the designated downtown to apply for grants to help, say, if we want to redo the whole playground or redo, you know what I'm saying? If that was part of the designated downtown, because right now that doesn't fall under the special criteria.
So what we would do if we want to make amendments to the map is we would need to do a little research. We'd have to go back to the initial discussion about why it was left off in the first place. We'd have to see whether there's a limitation on the amount of open green space or dedicated green space. But I think it's worth, we could look at all of these pieces, and we should, to see what will benefit us developing this community forward with some of the opportunities we have coming up.
Yeah, because I was just thinking of, what we've talked about, improving the park, and raising the drainage and the ball fields, and improving the whole playground area. That's all been talked about, and if the designated downtown could help with some of the grant aspect for that, be a positive there too.
Would it not be easier to get the redesignation done and then go in afterwards to try to amend? Because you throw something new at this board, who knows if they're going to accept it?
And that we can look at. They mention in the application, the reapplication materials, that an amendment can be placed at that time. And they certainly are sort of prepared for that.
The implication here is that it would be like doing a whole nother application, which, while we're at it.
Yeah, it depends.
And I would ask maybe even if there's an issue with green space, that there's maybe a little bit of maybe ill feeling from business owners on East Main Street, which it has many of the characteristics of a downtown, but is not included in this, and that would be.
Didn't we looked?
Yeah,
I think we looked into East Main Street, but the state thought it was too far up.
Yeah, and again, this is.
Yeah, I know.
We'll see what we can finagle, and we'll see who's on this board now. But that's.
But I remember that was the biggest thing, because we kept trying to say East Main really is a downtown.
Yeah. But again, it doesn't contain the historic district. So these are the pieces that we can certainly go through and look at, and they're all part of this application piece. But we have 8 weeks. So we received a notice. We have 8 weeks to get the preliminary application in, as well as then a couple of months after that to work on it.
I have a few questions.
Sure.
Is there a complete list of program requirements?
No.
So what you see in the renewal application guidelines, those are pretty much the requirements?
Those are the requirements.
Okay. So number 8.
And the reason for that is that it's up to the community to develop the programmatic piece of it, what fits in the community. So there are requirements for, it has to be an economic development piece, there have to be things that benefit the downtown and so forth. They're not specific programmatic requirements.
So number 8 says a list of committees and number of volunteers overall. To my knowledge, the only committee that's currently meeting is the board.
No, actually, that's not the case. And those are programmatic elements. We can certainly have a conversation about that. I don't know if we want to stay on the redesignation piece, whether or not the city wants to go into the redesignation or not, or whether you want to get into a larger conversation about organizational structure. It's important to remember that, and we've gone through this a number of times with different groups, that the redesignation piece requires an organization that's a non-governmental organization. So the structure and the function of the organization is not controlled by the municipality, it's controlled by the organization and the board of governors or directors.
I would love to see the redesignation happen if NCRC is meeting the program requirements.
And it is, absolutely it is. We do the quarterly reports, we do the reinvestment statistics, and so forth, absolutely.
Personally, I would need to see more evidence of committee action, volunteers. I'm, as a community member, not seeing any evidence of a social media presence, updating of the very expensive website that was just redesigned a couple of years ago. There's no staff. I'm not aware of any future planning. So,
but you wouldn't be.
I would hope the community would be. And so I would need a lot more evidence of what's happening to feel comfortable.
To vote on the redesignation? It's up to you guys. It's your application for the redesignation.
Well, I think it's important that we do reapply. I've seen the benefits of this program. And I think it's very important for our downtown that we go through and reapply and keep the designation. There's other communities that wish they had designated downtowns from my travels and talking with people. And they know that it really has helped.
There are communities that have lost the designation too. I just put that out there. It's not a guarantee.
Right.
So there are communities that have lost the designation.
Correct.
And it is a blow economically. It's different though. I don't know of any community that's lost the designation because of not reapplying.
I think if they weren't meeting the requirements, you wouldn't have got the renewal in 2012. So I don't think there's any question you're complying with the requirements.
A lot's changed in 5 years.
The requirements haven't changed.
Right.
The requirements are exactly the same.
This is state money coming in. This is a state program. And so, there are pretty firm requirements in place.
I would hate the thought of losing the downtown tax credits because I know that was important for the person with the UPS building, what they invested. That was very important for that. It was important for the tasting center to have the designated downtown. It's been important for several businesses downtown.
It's also a very strong tool that our real estate development consultants are taking into consideration as they're doing their work. So it would be mission critical for anything that's going on Main Street to have the designation. It would be horrible if we lost that designation.
Did you have something, Laura?
Yeah, I do. I just want to echo what James said concerning East Main Street. I've often felt that that portion of town tends to get a little bit left out. And I understand, there are rules and regulations about this, but my hope is that if they can't be included in the actual designation, that there's something that the city could do to be able to offer something to those businesses. I mean, even just, some type of grant to fix up the property. I mean, it's, we have a little bit of disparity here, and I just have always felt that corridor, which I think is really important to our city, tends to get a little bit left out. So if there's any way to include them in that designation, it makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Colleen, then Ann, and then we're going to move on.
So I just wanted to ask, first of all, in regards to Gardner Park, didn't the city have an opportunity for, there was a planning grant and then there was some kind of implementation grant perhaps,
So that
a
was
couple
done
of years
by
ago.
the Department of Recreation, not the downtown organization.
Uh-huh. So did they apply for that grant?
That would be the Department of Recreation that could answer that.
Or the city council? Did the city apply for that
They
grant?
applied for the planning grant, they have not, excuse me, applied for the implementation grant.
Were there some challenges around applying for the implementation?
It's a challenging grant to apply for, and we still can apply for it. We haven't done it yet.
And so my second question is that, or just statement, I guess, is that I was happily a part of the design committee, but that committee has not met. The age-friendly, Newport City Age-Friendly Action Team did not feel that they wanted to be serving as design committee as well as age-friendly action plan. So I just wanted to put that out there, that that's my last experience with a committee that was meeting regularly.
Okay, and then Ann, and then we're gonna move on.
Oh, it seems to me that in 2012, we still had an executive director who was writing grants and being paid by NCRC. And in addition, there were a number, I think at the time I got briefly involved, there were 4 separate committees working on various aspects of economic development and design committee, and there were 2 others as I recall at the time. Almost none of them still exist. And so I would, if you go for redesignation, and I understand the benefits of having that title, it seems to me from the city's perspective that NCRC should be coming back to us with a plan about an organizational framework and a treatment of volunteers that would allow people who volunteer to enjoy being a part of NCRC, and that plan should come within the next month or 2 while simultaneously this redesignation application is occurring, because we need a viable NCRC as well.
Anything else?
Well, it seems that we're looking at approving a draft renewal application, but we don't have an application in front of us. So wouldn't it make more sense to have the application written and then come to us for approval?
No, they're getting permission.
You are the applicant. The
Right.
municipality is the applicant for the designation.
Yes.
So you need to decide as a city council whether you want the designation in the downtown district. And if you do, we need to get working. And you're welcome to just put it together yourself. But we're willing to put those materials together for you that you will review obviously before going into the, to submit it in August. But no, that work would not be done before you decide you want to actually do the designation. It wouldn't make sense to do that. It's going to require some of the municipal plan to be changed. It's going to require some tweaking to the capital plan. It's going to require the planning and zoning folks to probably change the whole description of Renaissance in that plan, because that was done in 2015, but it all references EV5. That's completely different now. And so there's a lot of work that a number of people are going to have to undertake over the summer to put this material together. So I wouldn't recommend asking people to do that. But again, this is your application to the state as a municipality.
Well, as long as NCRC can demonstrate that they can meet the program requirements, then great. I would also hate to see us lose that designation that's so valuable.
Right, yeah, there's no problem there. It's two separate conversations. So I think there's a misunderstanding about what the organization needs to look like. There's a misunderstanding about what programs need to look like. This organization is a 501c6, not C3, so it's a business league. And we have a number of wonderful, wonderful organizations. We just heard from one tonight who are doing a number of wonderful things around the community. NCRC doesn't need to be duplicating those types of programs. It needs effectively to be working with the business community of investors, bankers, and businessmen to help get our downtown development site developed. And so as a business lead, that's effectively what it's doing.
And that was the original.
That was the original vision.
Original
Yeah.
vision.
And it got spread too thin, and it got too many competing concerns. Some great work was done, but I think where we are as a development in the city, as a contributor to the city, the best way in which NCRC can contribute to the development of the city is to focus on the business interest and the development, and work with the consultants on their recommendations for developing the downtown for business interests.
Okay. Then, anything else, then I would entertain a motion to proceed with the renewal of the designated downtown, if the council so chooses.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to move that we proceed with that renewal of the designated downtown and with the work of revitalization with every means at our disposal.
Motion's been made, is there a second?
Second.
Made and seconded, any discussion? Then hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries.
Great, we'll be seeing a lot of each other over the summer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oops, the next.
Julie, you need to sign them.
Oh, Julie, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. I don't think you had to sign.
I
Where's
signed.
the warrants?
Are you done with the projector? It's still kind of
Oh, you're getting that too?
Oh, yeah.
Can we turn this off? I think it's putting out the old heat.
I don't think you need it anymore. 95 degrees right here.
Okay, the next item is website recommendation and vote.
I'm just gonna move this so it doesn't stay burning on you.
Don't put any paper near it like you did with my book.
That's funny. I'm gonna
You were here last
That
night.
was classic. Timeless memory.
She put my book in front of the lens.
It's Robert's Rules of Order.
Yeah, and I had my slip from a water bill and actually burned a hole through the cover of the book in my slip.
Right. I'm gonna make a call to a man named John Guilfoyle, who owns the company, I just want to grab it, John Guilfoyle Public Relations. And this is a firm that we've been working with peripherally for this fiscal year through the Vermont Police Chiefs Association is the entity that first discovered this firm. And I had come to the council over the course of 3 meetings earlier this late winter and spring with a website company that would rebuild our website. I was sent back to the table 3 times to get more information, and at the last opportunity to speak to the representative, I asked if he would make himself available telephonically, and he declined the opportunity. They're from the Midwest, so there was a 2-hour delay, and he said he was a family man, which I totally appreciated, but I thought we're on the East Coast, we have a website to put together. One of the questions that was asked was, what about customer service? How are they going to be available? So that gave me pause, and the other thing that gave me pause is that was a quote to build a flat website. Basically, they would build a website, we would populate the material, and we would be responsible for our content, of course, but we wouldn't have other services available to us in the way of marketing or sending articles beyond just our website. This proposal tonight is an actual public relations firm. So whatever you learned about the last proposal, forget it, because this is a very different opportunity for the city. And I'm going to call John Guilfoyle who's expecting us, and let you hear from him directly, and he will also help explain his service, so bear with me just a minute.
John Guilfoyle.
Hi, John. This is Laura Dolgan phoning from the city of Newport.
Hi, Laura.
Welcome to our city council meeting.
Good evening.
In the room with us is our full city council, starting with Mayor Paul Manette. You've talked to him on the phone once before. Council President John Wilson, City Treasurer James Johnson, who was also present at the very first presentation you made back in February. Council Member Dennis Chenette, Council Member Julie Raboyne, and Council Member James Merriam. We have a room full of interested people, including our department heads. So I was just explaining, I'm going to turn you up just a little bit. I was just explaining to the room how we came across your firm through the Vermont Police Chiefs Association, and they've been using your service, I think, for at least this fiscal year.
Right. We want to mention the press is here as well.
Oh, the press is here as well. We have the Newport Daily Express as well as the Barton Chronicle. I think that's all the press that's here tonight. So what I would ask of you is to describe your service just a little bit. Talk about how this service would help the city generate articles, develop a Facebook page, develop a Twitter account, maintain transparency, force our hand by generating up to 10 topics a month for the entire city, departments, as well as the administration. And is there anything else I should announce before you start speaking, John?
No, I think that just about covers the introduction.
Great. So with that, I'm gonna hand it over to you.
Well, good evening, everyone. I hope that the June weather in northern Vermont is better than the June weather in northern Massachusetts, which is terrible here so far.
It's terrible.
As Laura began to mention, I run a public relations agency that is in its fourth year now. I'm a former news reporter for the Boston Globe. I did that for 6 years, and then I worked the final 2 years of Mayor Thomas Antonino's administration as his deputy press secretary before he left office. And I started this company right after receiving notification from the new mayor that the press staff would not be retained through the new administration. So what we do is we do full service public relations and communications for municipalities, government agencies, police, fire, public health departments, schools, and whole cities and towns as well. And what that means, in a nutshell, is, and you know, I take the practice of public relations very seriously. If you ever talk to me, especially face-to-face about shop, I will tell you that when you need legal advice, you hire an attorney. When you need financial advice, you hire an accountant. And when you need to communicate effectively or manage crisis, you call a public relations professional. I equate the three in terms of the level of service that they can offer a client. In the corporate side, we can measure it with sales and numbers, and really in the government side, you have the equity of your residents and your constituents, which I think is much more valuable in the long run, even if it's less profitable than in the corporate side. What we offer to Newport is the same package of services that we offer to our other municipal clients throughout the 6 states that we operate in. And that is, first and foremost, a cache of content that we can write for you on a monthly basis on a variety of topics and categories. And that could be anything from basic safety tips, pre-prom, pre-graduation, summer swimming pools, et cetera, which are good things for the city, for public safety agencies, for schools to get out there to their constituents when there are going to be major events or major celebrations. We also could discuss some of the major undertakings that a city government, public works and city services do on a day-to-day basis that they may not realize that the public has a hunger to hear about. And that could be everything from filling potholes to fixing roads to laying sewer pipes to anything that's going on, which most people that work for a city just say, well, that's just part of my job. To which I say, yes, but the difference is when you do your job well, the people who pay your salary are all the people that live in your city. And that's a good thing, and they want to know. Especially here in 2017, people want to know what their government, what their police, what their fire departments, schools, et cetera, are doing, not only with their money, but with their trust. And trust is a very valuable commodity, especially with government in this day and age. People want to know that what they've entrusted you with, whether it's with their votes or their safety, their children, or paying tax dollars to live in a place, that's an investment that's well made. When you hire a suitable public relations firm in the corporate world, it's the same as in the government world. You're hiring not someone to lie, cheat, steal, and spin. You're hiring someone to take, in 95% of the time, the good work that you do that you otherwise may not be equipped or have a natural full-time equivalent staff to communicate, and you're communicating that message effectively. And if and when things go wrong, a crisis, a major fire, a major crime, a minor crime is not communicated effectively, when things do go wrong, you're able to communicate that appropriately, and that is to say, completely and quickly insofar as the law allows. So if there is a major act of crime in Newport, Vermont, the people of Newport, Vermont and of the surrounding community or communities have a high degree of expectation. They want to know what's going on, where it's going on, when it happened, and if they need to do something, if they're safe. The example I give for crisis communication in government is something that happens all too frequently in cities and towns right now. Now, especially last year, over the past 12 to 15 months, and that is computer-automated bomb threats that have happened in public buildings and high schools around the country. We have measured statistically, looking at the actual metrics, if there were to be a bomb threat at a public high school, we've seen this in other cities and towns, it would be on social media, which means that your parents of the school children and the press who follow them will know about the incident before the police department gets the call. That is an astounding thing to take into account. That if there is if there's a crime or something going on where your school's being evacuated, it's plausible that your press will know what's going on or that there is something going on before the police department even begins to respond. And that's where, in 2017 and beyond, the services of an effective public relations firm are valid and relevant in small, medium, and large government, where it may have been harder a couple of years ago to have that discussion, to open that discussion with a city or town government. Just what we're seeing in terms of social media and police acts, the police brutality incidents that have occurred around the country, the increase in firefighters as EMS responders as opposed to just fighting fires all day long, the change of government, the change of speed of communications has opened up this opportunity for us. But we do not just come in and do your communications for you. That would be 10% or 25% of the battle. What we do with the city or town government is we provide you with a set of tools first and foremost. So we're not just going to come in and say, okay, here we are, give us stories, we're going to write press releases for you now. We're going to come in and talk to you. We're going to do some training. We're going to just give examples of what is a good story versus what might be something we pass up on. We're going to teach you about formatting press releases. We're going to teach you about generating good quotes that newspapers want when they're running stories. Newspapers cannot come to every event. And I'm sure the reporters understand that are in the room. They cannot be everywhere, especially with the pressures, deadlines, and the increased workload that reporters face nowadays. So when you do good communications, when you write a good press release, when you take a well-formatted picture, when you give a good quote in that press release, you're giving the newspaper another reason to cover the happy or the good event that's going on, even if they can't logistically be there for it. So we teach the communications to our clients. And then, in addition to all that, what we're proposing in our or one sheet proposal to you is the creation of a brand new city website. And that is a one-time fee, as you've seen on there, which would cover soup to nuts the entire creation of a website portal for the city of Newport in the WordPress framework. The reason why we use the WordPress framework is in a half hour, I can teach anyone how to use it. There's no coding, programming, or complicated technology. If you can log into your email and send a message to someone, you can be trained how to post on a blog for your new city website. There's very little learning curve and very few barriers to entry. So we designed the website for Newport. We take pictures, we shoot some video, we get the drone up in the air, and we do the whole package of artwork. We use the WordPress framework to design the website, and then not only do we post all of our content that we write for you, we again train your officials, department heads, administrators, police officers, firefighters, principals, etc., that have access to it. We teach them how to do it themselves, so that we're coming in and not just doing it for you, but we're teaching you how to do it, and we're doing it with you, so that when there is a complicated story or a major story or a high-level drug arrest, as we covered, or a high-level arrest, as we covered today with your police department, you have a professional communications team that can take a 45-page police report or a 10-page reward packet or talk to 7 different people over the course of 3 hours and put together a press release or a news story or a blog post for you. But when there's a photo gallery or a nice feature or a spelling bee or something else, you'll have the ability to do all that yourself so that you can engage in your own communications. So what we're looking to do for Newport is be your retained full-service public relations counsel. That means we'll write content for you. We'll be on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days per year, including holidays. We'll show you how to do some of the work yourself, and we'll give the city of Newport an entirely new website and a Facebook presence and a Twitter account so that you can begin to broadcast your message over those social media as well. That is the long and short of what we propose to do for you, and I'm hoping that there will be some questions I can answer to give some further clarity.
John, you had talked about having a system to launch the articles, so that if you generate something, we give it the okay. It takes about 10 minutes or so for the articles to hit the local and New England-wide media.
Yeah, so as a PR firm and as one that's working with Newport, if we have all the information that we need and people are approving what we're doing, we can put together a press release or a news story or a blog post in a couple of hours at the most. And then with the website software that we're going to be using for you, that we currently use for ourselves and our other clients, once we publish it, it will be on your website, it will be on our website, it will be on all of our social media channels, and it will get emailed out to the press all at the same time. So that if we have a press release that's going out for Newport Police or Fire or the city government itself, Public Works, if we publish it, we're going to have that on your portal, your website portal. It's going to hit your Twitter account at the same time, your Facebook page at the same time. You can also hit police, fire, school, etc. accounts at the same time. And our software will email it to the press. Now, we don't email everything to the press, so that not every blog post and event listing will go out to the newspaper because that's just too much content. But we can then select it so that if we're going to be emailing it out, we can email it to your local press, statewide press, New England-wide press, and if we had to, we can go national or international into Canada as well when we're sending out a press release. Most of what we'll do for Newport will be local, but if there's a particular piece of prominence or if there's some sort of major incident, we can hit as much media as we have to, and we have relationships with virtually all the media in New England, including every television and radio station in New England. We've dealt with them in some level in the past.
Excellent.
I was just showing one of the councilmen, you helped put out a press release today with the police department.
Yes, that was for an award that they wanted to leave.
Yes.
So it's the same process. The chief or his designee will give us the information that we need, and sometimes that's raw information. I mean, depending on the client, we'll get scans, PDFs, photographs of pages, Ideally, Word documents are easier now to retype, but we'll take all the original source material and put together a complete but concise press release. The key thing with the police department is, if we get a 45-page police report on a major investigation, it would take the police department several hours to redact that police report to release it raw. And then there's no context, and then it takes a reporter several hours to go through that and write it. You also run the risk, if you don't redact carefully, of witnesses' names, victims' names, juveniles. If someone's under 18, their name can't be in the press release if they get arrested. So what we do is we're trained, based on the laws and regulations, to put forth a press release that stylistically strives to idealize what newspapers are looking for, while following the letter of the law and making sure we're not putting information that should not be in there. Police reports in their raw, unredacted form have social security numbers, have dates of birth, have witnesses' names, victims' names, and that's the kind of thing you don't want getting out, obviously. So an effective press release is a whole new document that gets that information out there in a correct manner.
Great.
I just had a comment, John, this is Karen Garrity from NVDA, and we discussed at a previous meeting the ability of your company to reach into the Canadian market. As a border community looking toward economic development, it's important for us to be able to reach that market, and I wonder if you could just touch briefly, you mentioned it just briefly, but in terms of providing news stories that would reflect positively on our community to that market, what you would be able to do for this type of community.
Yes, and it's very similar to how we handle going across state lines, actually, when it comes to the press, because the Canadian press is not all that different from the American press. We have relationships with the CBC and several of the Toronto outlets, including the Globe and Mail. Obviously, we need to do some low-level research, some hyper-local research, and then establish those relationships with the local press in your Canadian border communities and in your nearest mid or major city in Canada across from Newport. But that's all part of the game for us. If we entered New York State with a new PR client, we'd be doing that same research. So it doesn't really differ that much, except the border's a little bit harder to get across sometimes.
Do any of you speak French?
No, but as you discussed previously, we will be incorporating the Google software into all of our website platforms, so we can translate into anything from French to Vietnamese if you wanted it.
It does a pretty decent job.
It does a pretty decent job, but yeah.
Yeah, but beyond that, je ne peux pas.
Okay.
Other
questions from council members?
One of the subject areas that intrigues me about this service is that we get a tremendous amount of complaints. And my hope is that by highlighting some of the actual operational successes that we have, that we can begin to help our community understand some of the seamless things that we do that people don't often realize is even going on. And some of the concrete items that I would like to highlight that are coming up are our budget process, our Centennial Project, the water tower, our reappraisal, when taxes are due, dog licenses. These are things where if we had a service like this, a service that was dedicated to being able to help us get the word out, I think that we will be doing the community a good service, will earn their trust, and people will be more comfortable with accusations of a lack of transparency. I think a service like this will help us gain some credibility. I think I've talked to Elaine Collins at Newport City Elementary School, and it's something that she's also very interested in. I've talked to NCRC. NCRC is very interested in it. And we're prepared to approach other agencies and nonprofits so that when we all start speaking with the same voice and sending the same message, we're hopeful that it will be very advantageous for this area, particularly while we're at the point of renewing our downtown designation and trying to make ourselves the most appealing we possibly can with all the development opportunities that we're just on the cusp of. So I'm hopeful that if the council has questions, you'll let them rip so we can answer them. Go ahead, John, were you going to say something?
Yeah, please. And really, it starts with getting that website done and up into the specifications that you want. And, you know, my company is sustainable based on long-term relationships. We're not a web developer who would charge you one fee and then be done with you. We make money when we have clients that renew for years and years and years. So while we're asking for an investment of some capital for Newport, especially in year one, we've done our homework, and we've seen similarly sized cities pay $50,000 to $100,000 for just a website that they don't know how to use, and that hasn't been updated in a year since they got it. Our philosophy in public relations is the website and social media, looking at your policies are all part of getting your overall public relations and your overall image in order. And we do that through building long-term relationships. You know, most PR firms, business comes and goes and ebbs and flows. We have over 150 police departments on our roster, for example, and going on our fourth year, we have had 3 clients not renew overall. So we've kept nearly all of our clients. And the unpredictable budget cycle in New England it is some feat to be able to retain business like that. So that's one thing I do want you to know, is that we are not looking to sell you a product and then wish you well with it. We are looking to establish ideally a long-term relationship with Newport and see that your needs are met for years to come.
Hi, my name is Colleen. I'm a citizen of Newport. I have 2 questions and maybe a statement. So 1, what is the cost of this service, which you can answer after I finish? And 2, I would suspect that perhaps that investment might be better spent investing in the wonderful part of our city that already is, as opposed to a messaging public relations campaign. And secondly, why not, I feel strongly that maybe we should invest in some local talent if we're actually going to hire somebody who knows our area, somebody young and talented and gifted on social media, who would probably for 20 hours a week be an excellent mover and shaker in terms of public relations for our city. Thank you.
Good questions. Very good question.
So to address that, those are excellent questions. We are billing you at approximate cost of $25,000 for the first year. The city of Gloucester, Massachusetts, 3 years ago spent $100,000 on just their website. And they know that there's no content or public relations or ongoing service with that. So we feel very strongly that we cannot be beaten on cost for sure. In terms of the other points that you mentioned, I believe very strongly as someone who works in public affairs and has worked for a major and very small, our smallest client is East Kingston, New Hampshire, with 2,000 residents, and I come out of Boston, that the residents, no matter whether there's 2 million or 2,000, there are great things happening in a community like Newport, but if no one knows about them, or if the website is ancient technology and people are not, receiving information where they are, and where they are is on their phones, on their Twitter, on their Facebook, on their laptops occasionally, not as often as you might think, then they're not being informed by their government, and that's a failure of government. On a government website, we have seen estimates that anywhere from 2/3 to 3/4 of all website traffic is mobile. Cell phones, iPhones, tablets, not computers. Your website's not mobile friendly. So you have a website that's not made for most of your visitors to actually look at. So there's a demonstrative need for it. And there are companies out there that do it, but at a much higher price, I believe, than we've been quoting you. We are a young company. We are very energetic. I'm still, in the rising half of my career, I like to hope. I'm 33 years old. I've been doing this for 10 years now, and I believe that I've created a model that is both cost-effective for government and that gives them a tremendous amount of work and content for their investment. Almost all of our clients are governments who understand the need to spend tax dollars efficiently.
I'm going to put the chief on the spot. You've been using this company. Have you had success?
Yes, sir.
We've had tremendous success, and while I will agree with the comment that it would be nice to be able to put someone local to work who has a vested interest in the community, I can tell you that John's been nothing but professional, not only with our agency, but with the Vermont Associations of Chiefs of Police, and I believe that the Bay Cop will be renewing the contract with him again. We've said this multiple times in the past. Newport is on the precipice of becoming the next Stowe, Vermont, the next Colchester, Vermont, the next Richmond, Vermont. We need a professional entity to push us forward and let all these other interested agencies, businesses, and citizens that are around this area the opportunity to see what we have to offer. And while I do believe that there is a tremendous amount of local talent that may or may not be suitable for this type of purpose, as far as the police department is concerned, I can't go and give a police report to just anyone who doesn't have a legal staff or a background understanding what can and cannot be disseminated to the press legally. John's company can provide that to us. So, sorry, go ahead, John.
No, Chief, go ahead, sir.
No, I'm done, go ahead.
So I'd be remiss if I didn't harp a bit on the professionalism of public relations. And we've heard the argument, and it's a perfectly valid argument to hear, that we can hire a local person for a couple hours a week to do what we need to do. But you would not hire a local person to balance your books unless they were an accountant or had a degree in accounting. You would not hire someone to argue a case in court unless they had a law degree and passed the bar. That's what a professional, established, award-winning public relations firm does when they do it correctly. And when you don't have someone who has all aspects of the doctrine of public relations, there are people who don't believe in public relations. There are people who think it's a waste of money no matter who you are, whether you're a business, a government, or a nonprofit. But in my experience, when you have someone who can write a press release once in a while or can take a picture and has a decent camera, what do they do if a police, and Chief, forgive me, I hope this never happens, what do they do if a police officer shoots and kills someone and the national press is coming to your town? We hope this never ever occurs, but I tend to speak very plainly when I'm pitching a new client, when I'm talking to a potential client. I know this is a public meeting, but I'm not going to change every aspect of how I address my audience. We have to be ready for all contingencies. There could be a nylon fire, there could be a police-involved shooting, there could be an incident of violence in a school, God forbid. A professional communicator understands that when the helicopters are in the air and the satellite trucks are there and CNN's coming and they don't care about you, they don't care about anything except getting their story. I stood between two bombs when they exploded in Boston in 2013. I know what it's like to have the national, international media breathe down your throat. I hope none of you ever have to know that. But you buy insurance for a reason, and I believe very strongly and passionately in the professionalism of public relations. I think it's something that first of all, I think we all in my industry should take ourselves that much more seriously, because there's a lot of damage that can be done when you don't know what you're doing and you're in charge of communications for a major entity, and it does not get more major than a government.
Okay, I think we need to, oh, okay, I'm looking at the time, I gotta move on.
It's just a very quick budget cost question. Hi, John, my name is Laurie, I live here in Newport. So if our police department is using your service, and I don't know how it's being paid for, does that wrap up into that investment, and would that save the city any money? Because maybe we're already putting out part of a budget for your service. I guess that's my question.
So that's probably a question for me to answer. So right now, the Newport City Police Department pays a nominal $99 a month to the Police Chief Association. So that's an operational expense that the police department absorbs. The actual expense for the city for a one-time fee of $10,000 to build that website that will have the Facebook, will have the Twitter. People will be able to post their commentary on our Facebook page. We'll have a way to respond to those postings. That's a one-time fee of $10,000, but the service for the monthly articles drops to less than $1,000 a month. So The total first-year cost would actually be $21,988 for the full package. We're talking to our business development folks about the possibility of taking advantage of some of the topics. So that has not been resolved yet. As I mentioned, Elaine Collins, who's the principal at Newport City, is interested to see what questions are going to be raised and what direction we're going to go in. I would not be making a recommendation of this magnitude if I did not feel that we were at a state where we need to call in some professionals to help us. And we receive a lot of complaints. We need to address those complaints. We need to give some reality. We do not have the ability to hire our own webmaster. To hire an internal employee that would have the skill set would easily exceed $60,000 to $75,000 if they're fully benefited. I think we do have enough stuff going on in the city to justify this. I think in talking to all the department heads and learning about some of the amazing successes that they have on a daily basis, like I said, it forces our hand to get the information out there.
And I just want to interject, I can no longer provide free website services that I've been doing for 15 years.
Our website.
You know, that, it should come to a point, it's too much for me, and I did it for 15 years for free, and
It cost
it was
us-
something I decided to do, but I can't do it anymore.
Our
And so,
website has
no,
historically.
anymore. I mean, we gotta move on.
Our website has historically cost less than $150 a month. Our
A year.
current- A year, excuse me. And it's also based on WordPress, so some of our employees already have exposure to that. So.
Actually, it didn't cost the city anything, because I was actually
We paid for it?
paid for the hosting and all that. I never put a bill in for it, so. Okay, I'm looking at the time, and I've gotta cut the conversation off.
I know, but you really haven't spoken to a single press member, and we've got three, we've got the TV,
Well,
we've got.
this is something,
and
excuse me, but we need to move on. The time has come, I'm looking at the hour, we have a lot more on our agenda.
It's our money that you're spending, though, it's this city's money.
It's budgeted.
And you've got an ability to communicate with people in the press by simply picking up the phone and telling them all the
The
wonderful
local press
things you're
cannot do a
doing.
website. They cannot get the information out they get information out, I'm getting tongue-tied at this late hour, but they're not here to do our website, they're not here every day interacting with, say, the police chief or the public works director or the city manager. There's things that we might want to get out that this company can definitely do for us.
And we're not shutting off access to our local press, in fact, we're encouraging it. So when the articles go out, either Joe or Ed or anybody else can decide whether or not they want to pick up the story, excuse me, and follow through on that.
Absolutely. And my last point to that is you're not bringing in a gatekeeper by any stretch of the imagination. I know you have to move on, but we do not come in and monopolize the press with local press or cut them off. Those relationships are extremely important. We simply come in as another facilitator, but also dealing a lot with the statewide, the region-wide, and expanding your message beyond, like you even said, beyond your northern border as well. But we will talk to and help the local press, but we're not here to take those relationships away. We're not here to replace that with anything. We're here to add as much as we can.
What would the ongoing costs be? You've talked about year one, but not the ongoing.
Beyond year one, I have a really sore throat, excuse me. The second year cost, $15,588. And I think, now John, help me, does that price drop to $999 a month with a website?
So your first year, it'll be $999 a month plus the $10,000 for the website. In subsequent years, it would be $1,299 per month for everything. The $10,000 is a one-time fee. But you're also getting all of the website IT work with that. We host, back up the website every night, update the software, and do the security software, which is most important. We do all of the technology work that goes with having your municipal website up. We take that responsibility. So you don't have to, there's no web hosting costs as long as you maintain your PR relationship with us. We do all that for free.
Okay. Any other questions from city council members?
Not for him.
Not for him? Okay. So then I guess we're probably.
Do you want to ask?
Did you want?
I think it's a discussion about, that's just a council-related discussion as opposed to, I don't have any technical questions for John.
All right, so I guess, John, thank you for taking the time
Thank
out
you
to
very
fill
much.
us in.
Thanks, John. Appreciate your time, being so late
Oh,
with us.
oh, no problem. Very great to talk to you, and thank you all very much for your time and your consideration and your thoughtful questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Well, I wonder, with NCRC having this great, wonderful, very expensive new website, if we could consider merging the city website with the Discover Vermont.
So we're way ahead of you.
Okay.
That's great.
So if we went that route, we would save the $10,000 for designing a new website and then possibly hiring a part-time professional, maybe local, PR person, rather than outsourcing that to wherever.
Actually, not quite.
No.
Not with the,
Right ballpark, Rocky.
not with the research that we've done. Economic development is probably left better to economic development. We have talked about taking over the, it's called Entity. Is that the name of the company that built the NCRC website? That website needs to be updated. Municipal government is very specific to municipal government. It would make sense for us to have a link not only to NCRC, but to merge all of the economic development websites that are in existence right now under either category of links or have a discussion with, it's not necessarily NCRC, it would be, I think, NVDA or NCIC, I mean.
Well, I don't know that we can speak for them.
Right.
But in terms of getting consistent messaging, clear locations for whether people are coming to this community with business interests or whether residents are looking at it for information from the city. We've got multiple websites across multiple platforms providing information that probably does more, causes more confusion than information. And so the more we can sort of unify, both in look and in delivery, what these websites contain or what they can link to, the better I think we'll be as a community. It's been one of our difficulties in getting information out in a clear and consistent manner. So NCRC, is fundamentally an economic development website, and actually John was very complimentary of the website, and it needs to function a little differently in terms of its information to what's going out, but it doesn't have to be so completely separate from what the city is doing. So there are ways in which I think there are collaborations possible that will take the burden of hiring a separate person for every single website in the community with a separate cost to doing all of that, and making it a more rationalized approach to organizational information management, which is really what this all is. So it's a conversation, we've had a number of conversations now, and we've had a couple of conversations with John about what this could potentially look like for NCRC and what the goals of that organization is, complementary to what the city's goals are with this type of service.
So you're suggesting something much bigger than was just talked about now?
Not necessarily bigger, but in addition to, just as part of.
Funded how?
Funded with money we.
I figured it was with money.
Well, excuse me,
Figure that
would you
out.
please address me before you just start speaking?
I think too, I think we're at a point where the discussion, this is sort of a tangent, and I think, we would do a fuller presentation about what this would look like when decisions are made, sort of have off-the-cuff suggestions. While it's fun and it's sort of coming to your mind because this is your first exposure to it, it's not really helpful in advancing what we're trying to do. So I think, raising the issue of, bringing up the Renaissance piece is important. But the details of that still would need to be worked out and considered. So that's where we are.
This feels a little like we're being played. Because we just listened to a presentation, which is new information to all of us, but clearly there's multiple other conversations going on.
Well, why wouldn't there be?
For full transparency, now let me finish. I spoke with, the city manager and I spoke, and the idea clicked in about collaboration with other groups. So, sure, have the gentleman speak to NCRC to see if there's a way that we could
Absolutely.
collaborate.
And you've heard
So
that the
that's what we
school-
were doing.
and the
There's been
schools have
nothing
been reached out
secret to that, it's just to try to find collaboration and maybe a way to share the cost. Because back, this all started when I said I wanted to give up doing the website for the city, because I can no longer do it. And this has evolved into, seems like it's turning into a nightmare.
Boy, I hope not.
Because because I've had people come to me and say, well, how come your website's not updated? How come you're not updating it? I'm getting that more and more lately.
That part's very
And,
challenging.
I'm not doing it anymore. I can't. I just can't. I'm busy and I have too many other important things to do.
This
It's outgrown with today's age and between social media and today's age, I just can't do it. I'm not a full-time webmaster for the city.
This is an effort where we have an opportunity as a community to be very innovative in a whole new direction. I don't think the idea of hiring a public relations firm has ever been proposed before. It's new territory. We have tremendous opportunity with it, such as partnering with these other agencies in the community. I think that it will strengthen us. I think that we will have the continuity of messaging and transparency. Again, I can't stress enough that this forces our hand to put blips out all the time, and I think that's very critical.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
We just come out of, and I say probably the worst budget crap we've gone through this past session. And I mean, we were nickel and dime and everything. Where's this $25,000? Is it already in next year's budget?
We would have to rob from Peter to pay Paul in order to do this.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's that critical. Department heads are willing to engage in this, and I think things have gotten to the point where if we're not better at getting information out, our complaint factor and volatility is just going to get worse. So I'm very concerned about that.
Since this was just presented this evening, shall we hold off on a vote till the next meeting? That way people have a chance to think, and if they have questions, they can go to the city manager on questions.
Right. It's a whole new way of thinking, so I appreciate you taking the time, and as you have questions, please let me know, so I can do as much research for you between now and the next meeting as possible.
All right, we're gonna move on now. We're moving on now.
No, I still have a question.
No, I'm stopping it. We have a much bigger agenda, we gotta move on.
Welcome further questions to come to the city manager between now and
Well,
next meeting.
the question concerns the situation with the city manager saying that she's dealing with all of these complaints, it's gotten overwhelming, and I feel like we're being blackmailed now, because instead of responding to complaints in a regular, normal fashion, what we are
That's
now
a
being
discussion for
faced
some
with
other
is a
meeting.
public
That doesn't have anything to do
relations
with this meeting.
firm. It does have something to do with this
Well,
meeting.
We're moving on. The next item, Farrant Street Pump Station Engineering Contract. Mr. Bernier, could you fill us in on this? Sorry, Laura, I went right to the source, because I figured he knows.
That's just an extension to try to finish up the engineering that's going to get the bids, all the documentation is sent out for pricing for the stations to various companies. The right-of-ways that we're going to need, construction right-of-ways in that same location. Just the final engineering steps to move to construction.
How old is that pump station?
Early 80s.
So it's due for a major.
Oh, it's been long overdue.
And the cost of this is $12,500?
Yes.
For the engineering? Questions from council members on it? This is something that's in your budget?
Yes.
Could you repeat the figure?
Oh, $12,500.
That's what I thought. Thank you very much.
Yes. And we have used Aldridge and Elliott in the past, and they've done excellent work for us. They know our system like the back of our hand. Questions from the council members? Go ahead.
Tom, did we have issues with that pump station about 5 or 6 years ago, as I recall?
Possibly. We've had problems with it off and on through the years.
Okay.
It's the last one that hasn't been touched in, since it was originally installed. As you know, the last one that was done is about pretty similar as the one in Glen Road, the Creevy pump station. It's about the same size station that this is.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
I think.
Oh, did you have a question?
It was the Glen Road one.
Oh, the Glen, I thought you had a question, I missed you. Glen Road one was the one we had, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we would need a motion to approve this, or approve and have me sign it.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Motion be made, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded to approve the contract with Aldrich and Elliott for the engineering of the Farrant Street Pump Station in the amount of $12,500. Any discussion? When all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Mr. Johnson, do you want to? Okay. Thank you. Here, Laura.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item, Vermont Land Trust Letter of Support, grant application, and a vote. This is to make sure everything stays transparent, and the reason why this letter, let me start from the beginning. I received a request from Tracy Zhao from the Vermont Land Trust for a letter of support for a grant they were applying for regarding the Bluffside Farm. They were applying for a $500,000 grant from the Northern Borders Regional Commission. And knowing the past history with the land trust in the city, I polled the city council to get their opinion on writing this letter of support. It came back 2-2, 2 in favor, 2 against, writing the letter of support. I probably spent 2 weeks analyzing, weighing the facts, looking at data. 2 what I consider very good conference calls the city manager and I had with Tracy Zhao that I requested. And after the decision and all the conversations, I decided to write the letter of support. The one thing, the city, we're going to come up with a memorandum of understanding with the land trust that would delineate the responsibilities of any future recreational path, because it's known that the city would not be in a position, nor would support taking over a recreational path in that Bluffside Farm, especially with their idea of constructing or reconstructing a bridge over Scotts Cove that hasn't been there since the 1800s. They want to reconstruct that, and knowing the cost of any future maintenance, that's something that I had to get out of the land trust, that it wouldn't be turned over to the city if something failed, because we couldn't do it. And that was something that I needed to help write the letter of support. And knowing our grand list issue, and hearing from many residents about the whole property, they agreed, the land trust, to look into allowing a small portion, maybe along the Bluff Road, we haven't decided, to be looked at for some development. It's like a compromise, because the amount of money that we're losing from the land trust taking over the property, wanted to see if we could look at maybe having some future development that would be taxable. And when they assured me that they would look into that, and along with the memorandum of understanding, I decided to write the letter of support. But I took 2 weeks, the city manager can attest to that. I really weighed a lot of options and talked with a lot of different people about it, because I originally wasn't going to go along with it, but I changed my mind on it.
You should mention that NCRC is a co-applicant on this project to the grant, and NVDA is also working on this project with them. So the Land Trust asked if you had questions about the project itself, the development. I can certainly speak to that, the trail development.
The one thing that they sent, I don't have it with me, I think I left it at home, but I got emailed to me, was an economic impact. While the numbers didn't seem quite right to me, and I found a few boo-boos in their study, because we don't have a local option tax, so there's no local taxes collected from the impact from people visiting, because that all goes to the state. The impact from that study helps the local businesses in the area, which of course they pay taxes, but it doesn't help the mom and pop who's struggling to pay their property taxes. That it does not do, and that's why we need the grand list aspect. And I explained that on my conference call, and they agreed. And so that is why I have this on here, because I wanted to have a formal vote in public, because to meet the state statute also, right? I don't have that right in front of me. Do I, Laura? Do you have? There was a certain title that allowed me to write the letter as long as we had it as an agenda item. So that is why it's on the agenda, even though it's after the fact. Questions from any council member? Yes?
I have one for Karen. Do you know what is proposed, everything that is proposed for this development?
Yes, so essentially, as part of developing an economic, positive economic impact from the conservancy of that land, putting in recreational trails is the objective. They will not damage the land, the wetlands, the farming land. And because it's positioned in such a way that will allow connection to the BB Spur Trail, when that trail connects into Canada, those are very high usage trails on the other side of the border. And so developing that connection allows for those cyclists and hikers, if they want, to come directly into downtown Newport via this waterfront corridor. And the bridge that's proposed over Scotts Cove brings them into the Prouty Beach area, the campground, and so forth. And so looking at the model of the Burke Mountain Kingdom Trails, which has increased usage of those trails, tens of thousands of people per year come into Burke to use those trails. It is a very viable economic boon for Newport to be able to do this. And the opportunity that we have with the Land Trust currently owning that land to develop these easements and put in place management principles for those recreational trails before that land is then sold is really unprecedented in Newport's history. That land has been effectively private since 1906. And so to have that opportunity for recreational trails across that land connecting to the BB Spur will really, I think, open up a conduit of folks from the northern border coming through down into downtown Newport. And we can certainly generate numbers around that as well.
So they haven't planned out any map showing
All
where development would be, where the...
So they do, yeah, the pre-engineering studies are currently being done. We do have, those locations have been set. It's pretty clear where those trails would have to go because of the location of the wetlands and sensitive nature areas like the Eagle's Nest and so forth. So it's pretty clear where those trails would have to go. And the engineers that actually came down and looked at it were pretty excited about what those trails could potentially look like. So all of that work has to be done. There's of course environmental impact and so forth that all has to be done, but that's all lined up and being done this summer.
But they hadn't really thought about the long term.
The long
Land
term,
Trust,
right.
my conversation, they're just worried about getting the focus of getting the grant, getting it built, but they hadn't really, in reality, thought about the long-term maintenance.
So that's right. So that's something, there are a number of options, and that's something that has to be built in before that land is sold. So whether it could become a state-owned property, whether it could be part of a local foundation to develop that, that's something that will be developed and put in place before they sell the land. It has to be. for that to happen. So this will be written into those easements that will be designed, so.
But all I hear is trails and trails and trails. In the future, is anybody gonna be able to buy a piece of that? Put some houses in there?
No, because,
No.
that's right, because it's the
But along
land
the
trust.
Bluff Road, they said they would consider it, and that's what she said on the phone and actually in an email. So that is something that,
That's why the trails piece for economic development makes the most sense for that land, because in perpetuity, that land has to remain the way it is. The only changes that can be made to it are by the land trust before it's sold.
right.
And so,
So it's the same thing as in our first dealings. All they said they were gonna do, and then they bought the land right out from everybody, and it will not be developed. Okay, thank you.
Now, this is the first grant that they applied for. They want to go for a downtown transportation grant. And I informed the city manager that I would not support signing on to that. We have too many of our own projects. And so that's something that, I don't know if it's been relayed to them, but that I would not sign on to. Because we have too many of our own projects, and I'm counting on them to come through with what a conference call. Because based upon the conference call, if things don't come through, they'll never get a thing out of me again if they don't do some of the things they said they would do on the phone and in writing too.
Can they sell any of that land?
no, I don't believe under the terms of the purchase, they can sell it. You know, they may be able to, they may be able to parcel off, but they'll have to do the studies to see if that would be the best location. Maybe it makes sense because it's along the roadway, but in terms of what the land use is, it may not be, I don't know.
Right.
So they'll have to do a whole separate study about what they could potentially do. It certainly wouldn't be land to the front of the bluffs because of what's there in terms of.
No, I'm talking about the Bluff Road. I sent them a little map that I.
But in terms of the view, it would be the bluffs that would be.
No, I know, I know.
That's too bad, because just 15 acres of that means between $45,000 and $60,000 a year in tax. We're missing out on.
Right, and they don't understand our issue.
I went through that whole thing, I gave a presentation to open a meeting on that, before that land was sold to them. And nobody wanted to hear it, but, you know, now we're missing out on $50,000, $60,000 a year property tax every year.
Yes.
I just wanted to point out that properties that are co-located near trails and recreation opportunities go up in property value. So that having those trails available there will automatically increase the property value of the surrounding homes, regardless of whether that smaller piece that they're willing to develop gets developed.
I hope so. The recreation trail goes right by my house, and I haven't seen any increase in property value.
Which you get you new bid.
It makes it very attractive for people to move
And that would
here.
be in our next reevaluation, 16, 17 years.
But that's the long game. That's the.
All right. So I guess to make it formal, we need a vote.
So the two of us who are in support of this would like to make.
Well, we got to,
Yeah.
because I wanted to make it.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I would like to make the motion that we write the letter in support of the land trust grant application, and send it much in this form, possibly in the past.
Then that's the motion.
Second.
All right. Hey, I just have to be transparent and do it at the table too. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
2 nays and 2 ayes, I will vote aye. Just to make it formal on the record. And just a comment, burned once, if they burn me twice, they'll never have anything from, I'll say that for the record. If I get burned the second time, they'll get nothing out of me ever again. They probably will, but we'll see what happens. Go ahead.
If I could, the reason that I voted against this was basically because I haven't seen any of the plans. It would have been nice to see the actual plans. If this was, say, 10 years ago, and I was still on the zoning board, we wouldn't have even considered it without a set of plans to look at to determine where things were gonna go, what was proposed. They've certainly got an uphill battle for themselves. They're gonna have to deal with A&R, especially when it comes to putting a bridge across the cove. That won't be a very easy fight, I'm sure.
And they're gonna have to deal with the state, possibly to take over the maintenance, which we know right now the state wants the city to take over the boardwalk, and we've said no, knowing that it's gonna cost $500,000, $600,000 to fix that boardwalk.
So basically, that was my reason for voting against it.
Okay, we'll move on. Mr. Johnson, new business.
No.
Mr. Wilson? Ms. Ramon?
No.
No? I don't have anything.
No, Mr. Mayor.
Anything? No. Anything? No. Old business, Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, I just want to thank the PD and Public Works, the Fire Department, especially Rick, for all the work they did on Memorial Day. Turned out really well, and without the city people being out there, it wouldn't have turned out the way it did. So. And luckily it didn't rain.
And the rain held off.
We're batting 3 for 3. I don't know if we can go 4 for 4 or not. But it was great.
Okay, good.
And thanks to Laura and Rick for driving the convertible.
It's our pleasure.
That was a good part of it.
I let Rick drive my car. Bill Graham loved it. Any old business, Mr. Wilson? Anything? No. The only old business I have is I received a letter from the Vermont Council on Rural Development, and they're basically thanking us for allowing them to present at our April 17th meeting, and their board approved their community visit in the fall.
Okay.
And so they will be kicking off with a steering committee to frame the process in early October. So I received that letter saying that they will be doing the community process in Newport. Okay, any old business?
Yes, I'd like to thank Tom and his crew for fixing the drainage culvert over on Sutter's Drive. Appreciate that greatly, and so with the residents that were over there. That was a very bad hole there. That's it.
Okay, anything? Laura, any old business? Okay. The next council meeting will be June 19th, 6:30 p.m. here. Yes, I got it right, it's getting late. The next Centennial Planning meeting will be June 15th from 5 to 7 p.m. And now we need an executive session for a pending litigation contract.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that a motion that the board's specific findings that premature general public knowledge of the subject of the anticipated executive session would clearly place the board and or person involved at a substantial disadvantage.
So the motion's been made, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
I don't have to vote aye, okay?
And secondarily, I'd like to move that a motion to move into executive session with counsel for confidential attorney-client communications concerning contracts and pending litigation.
So a motion's been made, is there a second? Seconded, made and seconded, discussion?
Mr. Mayor, do you expect there to be a decision as a result of this meeting?
There could be, so maybe.
Would you be kind enough to let me know if there is?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries.
You're going to be quite good at that. That should be your